We got Krimitsos. Did I mess it up? Give me a 1 to 10. Give me a 1 to 10.
It was a 7. You had it perfect before we started.
Okay, almost. I'll take a 7.
Krimitsos, but either way. Yeah.
But I have a good comeback for that.
Yeah.
You got into the Guinness Book of Records. All right, that's killer. Now, you got in there for what? You had the biggest virtual... You explain it.
Yeah, so during COVID, we run a community of podcasters called Podfest, and we were like, what do we do now? We had just had a live event with 2,000 people, and lockdowns happened. I'm watching Tiger King, and then the next thing I have 2 little girls who are watching Mr. Moon. I don't know if you know it's not Disney, but the other thing, animation with the Minions. It's called Mr. Moon. It's about a whole thing with Sing 1. And I'm looking at it, and this guy it's a little koala bear voiced by Matthew McConaughey, and his theater breaks down in San Francisco, and he's crying, and he's got nothing, and I'm crying because I'm a promoter. All my friends are out of business. We don't know what's going to happen. My daughters have no idea. They're just watching the show.
I'm still in Cocomel, man.
yeah, right. So I was inspired in that moment. I was like, we got to do something, because he picks up the pieces and he makes it an open air theater, and his last performance, it hits, and everything comes together and everybody wants to help him. So I said, I called up a friend. I go, we got to do some virtual events, see what happens. So I did a test run, and then he goes, why don't you go big? I go, big in what way? He goes, do a Guinness World Record like event, I go, I don't know if I could do that. He goes, you always tell everybody go big, call him. So I called him. And they're like, you know what? This looks good, because they're doing the same thing, transitioning. What do we do now?
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out what to do.
They go, if you could get 5,000 active podcasters, we will create a category for you for the largest virtual event for podcasters. And it was over a week's time, so people had to consume content. They had to be active. It wasn't just like this overnight, everybody shows up and goes. And I had to verify everything.
In 1 week.
In 1 week. So you have time, but you also have to attract people to consume quite a bit. So anyways, we set that Guinness World Record in August of 2020, and then in March of 2021, we shattered that because we want to make sure people understood, like, our community had grown, and we were helping independent podcasters all over the world. So it was pretty awesome.
And then the Podfest all came about. It started in 2013, right?
Yeah, it started with the meetup. I was doing meetups, and a friend of mine said, can I teach about podcasting? And I said, absolutely. And from there, I went home and told my wife, I'd love to start a podcast. She goes, about what? I go, I have no idea. I just love the concept. And I go, the timing was perfect. And she said, well, I think I want to start a podcast. And we had a fight over who's starting a podcast first.
Oh, boy.
She, it was our first podcasting spat. But anyway, she had one thing I know about is marketing. And she had a much better topic. She wanted to podcast for women, interviewing other female business leaders. And at the time, there was very little to none.
Even now, that would be killer.
But at the time, there's like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So she did it, and it hit. It was called Biz Women Rock, and I supported her, and I liked being her marketing manager and watching her grow. So in the meantime, I was doing workshops all over the state of Florida, and that's when Podfest came to be. We're like, all these people started, and they're like, Chris, what's next? I said, well, let's all get together once a year. And then Podfest started in Tampa, and it kept doubling in size. And then in 2016, 2017, we moved it over to Orlando, and then it just took off. It's become quite a thing, and we help people all over the world not only get started, but active podcasters grow and, connect to the networks out there and do the things that are out there. And it's amazing to watch it grow from then to where we are now, because I used to have to explain the word podcast in 2013. And people would ask me, how much is it? Those were the common questions. What is a podcast? Yeah, and how much is it? And when I tell them it's free, people, like, their heads would blow up. What do you mean it's free? How do you make money? So, it's changed. I know but it's changed since.
So before we get into how you got to this point, let's pull up what you got going on. Can you pull up tab 1, and then you can explain what you got coming up here on the 26th of May to the 29th?
Yeah, so this is our 8th event. We're in person in Orlando, 26, 29. So anyone that's looking to grow their podcast or really be part of it, we have tracks. We have like 8 different tracks. So you could learn a lot in all the different things. And then we have the podcast editors on site to help you learn how to edit. You could even interview editors and find staff. So there's companies that are hiring people to join the industry. So Our job is to give you whatever it is that you need, whether you're experienced or even a beginner, and help you up the ladder of success within the podcasting sphere of influence. And it's very big, and it's growing even bigger by the second.
And all that networking, that you can't pay enough for that kind of networking.
Well, you know what I tell people? Because a lot of them are like, why should I go? And I don't know. I said, if I told you 20 years ago, I got everybody you're watching on TV in a room, and you could go network with them, would you? They're like, I'd pay tons. I go, well, it's the same opportunity now. You just don't recognize it, So people don't realize like everybody's got a show, and not only are you learning, but how much better networking. Everyone has, the echo effect. They have thousands, or some people have millions of people. You don't even know it. They're sitting next to you.
And like we were talking earlier, what's so cool about it, your event, is you have 3,000 people there. You have one guy that's got 90 felonies. You got one doctor. You got a lawyer. You got another one. He's living in his bus. Somebody's a cook. We
have people doing meditations, health and wellness. It's the most amazing thing to see people from all walks of life coming in and wanting to put a message out there. You musicians, it's a very unique thing to see all walks of life all wanting to get their message out. Obviously, podcasting is the connecting point, and then some hit it big. Others are doing it as a hobby. Others are getting started, getting their legs under them. It's pretty cool.
Especially now with everything going on, for people to come together like that, I don't think there probably has been a better time in our lifetime.
When I think as everything becomes AI driven, influencers will be the last to go because it's a personality. So the one thing I always tell people, you could have a podcast that started 10 years ago and they were terrible and they got a little bit better, but maybe they're not great still, but they still have their audience because an audience is loyal. So it's one of those unique mediums where like you could be not so great and people will still listen and watch you because they've grown with you and they don't care about that. Now, if you start skipping shows, they'll replace you with someone else. But in the meantime, as long as you're consistent with them, they're going to support you.
A little bit of kind of all from podcasting, but sort of the same thing. Howard Stern, he changed a lot, but he just got another 400 what did he get? 400 million? Another
he got a big contract with Series
another one extended for another 4 years for 2 days a week.
Wow.
So in relation,
he's doing 2 days a week now.
He's only doing 2 days a week and from home. So Robin's in her house. They're all at home. So in relation to what you just said, his fans are so loyal that
it doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter.
And if you look at the product today,
nothing
20,
like
30 years ago, and the audience has still stayed with them because it's the consistency.
It's right. And then applying that to AI. So even if when AI does basically take over, like you said, the loyal people are, AI is cool, but I still want to hear Howard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
or a podcaster and so on and so forth. And you need the creator anyway.
Yeah, correct. So, well, who knows? Like you said, with AI, who knows? Everything might get replaced. But what you have to realize, if you have a business, if you sponsor the right influencer and you grow with them, they will 10x your business with their audience. And the influencer, attention is the name of the game. And it's getting harder and harder because some more people playing. Like, I don't know if you saw recently, but Jon Stewart, the Apple numbers came out. He's averaging like 40,000 downloads a show.
This podcast is brought to you by Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet. Monster Energy. It's the ideal combo of the right ingredients in the right proportion to deliver a big bad buzz that only Monster can. Monster packs a powerful punch, has a smooth, easy drinking flavor. Athletes, musicians, co-eds, road warriors, metalheads, geeks, hipsters, and bikers dig it. You will too. Monster Energy is more than just the green OG. Monster has Monster Ultra, Juice Monster, Monster Hydro, Rehab Monster, Dragon Tea, Monster Max, Muscle Monster, and many more. Buy on Amazon, buy on Walmart, or go to monsterenergy.com and believe me, you'll find a place. Unleash the beast. Monster Energy.
Based on what I see out there, I think Rogan's at 4 million. If some of his episodes last year hit 40.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you, like, and Rogan's been building. People don't realize he's been doing his show since the Ustream days. So in the early days, this is before we're talking about when YouTube came out. I believe February 14th. It was Valentine's Day 2005. YouTube came out, right? And then a couple years later, Ustream, the live streaming, that was a military technology that got released to the public.
Wow.
And that's where Rogan, a lot of these guys started streaming. They were streaming even before that. Was a pain in the ass. But once Ustream came out, you could use that and stream stuff. And then, everything has evolved since then. But back then, it didn't matter who you were. You could put a show up, you'd have 1,000 people watching what you put out there.
And then
we just didn't know it at the time how special that was. Does that make sense? Because it was the beginning of the transition of content creation to your home or your home office, whatever.
Well, just like kind of like when the first phone came out, everybody had the car phone. Everybody wanted to be cool. We didn't realize that big ass car phone was going to turn into this fucking phone that basically changed the world.
It's a supercomputer in your pocket.
Yeah, and it's just crazy how it evolved so quick. Pull up tab 2. I want to make sure everybody sees everything with the pod fest. So scroll down. And Chris, if you want to talk about a couple of things here.
Yeah, so like the one thing I'll tell you is we have a lot of different breakouts right now. We have a lot of volunteers, and the after hours parties are really cool. So we have the Mopod party, Hell at the Moon on Saturday night. We have the largest influencer meet and greet where we connect influencers and round tables and just people connect across all spectrums. So it's pretty amazing to see the different topics. And when you think of podcasting, people think of this kind of podcasting, but it's very diverse as far as what is considered podcasting.
Now, when you go to do one of these events, and you've done over 2,000 of them, so obviously you know what you're doing, right? Take me from beginning to end, because I know it's a ton of work. So you decide, okay, I'm going to do Podfest this year in Orlando, in May. That you decided, you have it in your head, okay, take me from the steps from then until...
On how to do the event?
Yeah, until it happens. Like how
so
all
the first thing you start
is
you got to negotiate a hotel contract, which in Florida is almost impossible now because of COVID. Florida was the first to open. So all the business in all the other states has flooded into Florida.
Sucked them all up.
So most hotels in Florida are already booked for the duration of next year.
Wow.
Vegas, you can't get bookings. Like if you have a big show in Vegas, like I'm talking at the convention center, they're booked for the next 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. So what's happened is Orlando has become the new, even though Orlando was a big spot, right? All that extra business and all has come into Orlando from everywhere to the point where almost all inventory is getting booked already. So it's getting harder and harder to find space. So logistically, when you hit a certain size, so once you get into the thousands and you need a lot of room, you got to find a venue. That takes months now to try and negotiate and find something. You find your dates if you know where you want to be at. And then once you have those, you start promoting. And year round, we have a team. So we have someone on social. We have, someone with the emails. So the team works at how do we help podcasters. Once a month, we have Pod Labs, which is a virtual laboratory where we talk about different things, monetization, what's going on. And then about 6 months out is when you really start selling tickets. And people start thinking, you're selling tickets really at your last event for next year. But then there's a lull, and then about 6 months out, you start picking up and you start selling tickets towards your event, and you do your best to sell all kinds of tickets. You have 3-4 different levels. You have college passes for the college kids, and then you get a speaker submission out. So we have over 300 speakers that come to Podfest. So it's a big production. So those little meetups equal like 2,000 events. But like one Podfest is like 300 of those meetups in one shot. So it's become a very big, it's like you're working out. We have this muscle now of putting together a show at a level that is very hard to produce.
Now, when you have the space that you have, how do you go about deciding, okay, this is where I'm going to have editing, this is where I'm going to have this?
It's feng shui, so you have to visualize, okay, I come off the escalator, okay.
That's so smart.
You think I actually pick my hotels on like what's easy, which one feels intuitive to walk around. And the one we have now, I said to
that's good, Chris.
The banquets, I go, it's very easy to get around here. She goes, this hotel was designed for people to get around. So then, you get off the escalator, exhibit hall right away. Because a lot of people don't realize there's there's someone that is selling these boom arms, the mics, and they're there to educate you, right? Spotify, whoever, they're all there to tell you what's going on. And then you have your classrooms, your workshops, and we do our best to design it in a way that's experiential. And now we're using a lot of LED screens. So, in the past you print out your things. Now it's great. You have 6-foot LEDs that you could program. And I don't have to throw out everything at the end, and it's cheaper too. It's pretty.
And really, in the beginning, you could have rented them. Use them, give them back. Not to kill your capital.
Yeah, no, that's what we do. We rent them because the technology changes, but it's great because I don't have to worry about.
Isn't it? It's the best.
You're renting the paper stuff anyways because that stuff is almost done once you're done with the show.
Yeah, and it's just it fills up.
Even though you buy it, yeah.
So now, when you're in high school, what are you doing in high school? Because I'm gonna take a wild guess, and you're not thinking like everybody else.
So I was an entrepreneur. So I'm talking 8 years old. So I had, you have rich dad, poor dad. My dad was an engineer by training, but my uncles were uneducated, the two older ones, and they were the business owners, and they did really well. So growing up as a kid, I'm like, how come my dad, who's like the genius, he's a mathematical genius, literally, because I could never beat him at chess. His brain works at a different level. And then you have my uncles who never went to school because my grandfather didn't let them go to school. They were working the fields in the old country. And
But
they're
they
doing
could sell ice to an Eskimo.
they're doing really well with their restaurants, diners,
Yeah.
So as a kid, what I would do is I would draw on a piece of paper, 8 years old, like I'd own this diner, that diner, and it would generate this. So I was always entrepreneurial. 13 years old, selling candy, and then I don't know why, but I knew that I was never going to get a college degree. I was going to just figure it out and make my own way. So I've had a lot of, I would call them experiences in entrepreneurship that I learned something every time.
Now, when it comes to audio, and later in your life, you obviously, Mr. Podcaster here, but what was it like radio, when you listened to radio, that interests you? FM radio, AM radio. What was it that led you in the direction of audio and then further on?
So as a kid, I would watch TV. In New York, we had WPIX, which was Channel 11. And I used to yell at the TV because they would program it wrong. So for whatever reason, I liked programming. And I would think to myself, I could do a better job. I don't know who does this job, but they're programming this all wrong against this and that. And, so I was
Chris, how old are you thinking this?
I had to be 13 or even younger. I just remember thinking I could do a better job programming because back then there wasn't a lot of channels anyway. So it wasn't too hard to program. So then my fascination with media developed when I moved to Florida. I got involved with public access, and I said, you know what? If any a time to get involved, now's the time. So mid-20s, I had some time, I had some money. I said, let me start volunteering. And I started working at the local public access, and I realized how, I don't want to say it was easy, but if you had a passion for the stuff and you asked the right questions, the first thing I noticed, Zach Galifianakis has this skit, Between the Two Ferns.
I love it.
Yeah, and the
You
reason
remember public access, Rob?
the reason Rob knows this, the reason why he has it is every public access they have ferns.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is a fern?
They just so you
Just those fake, literally the plastic plants.
you want like so it's not just a wall or backdrop. You put a fern there, so it just looks.
So in public access,
like,
they're trying to help the people, and they put two ferns on the thing, and then you start talking.
Yeah.
And it looks the same with any kind of show. It looks cheap.
You remember this shit, Rob?
Yeah, I worked at a small little tiny little station, and we just always do.
And they had fucking
stuff.
ferns there?
Oh, awful.
Awful, but everybody does it, right?
Yeah.
So I said to myself, just thinking outside the box, I go, this does not look good. And I don't care if I have the world's greatest expert. You got two fake plants behind them. I don't think anyone's going to take it seriously. So the one thing they had is a black cyc, which is the curtains. They call them a cyc. So I was like, if I just wrap the black curtain, and I bought a really beautiful, like $2,000 table. It was a lot of money at the time. And we have a nice conversation, it'll go far. And it did. And people would call in, and they're like, where in TV parlance, they call it bicycling in the program, meaning they think you're getting the program from like New York City and they're pumping it through. And they'll call these people up. They go, where are you guys getting this program from? Like, they couldn't believe it was
Like, where's the ferns?
Where's the ferns? So we would have really great conversations. I loved interviewing people. So we had a good time, and I learned a lot about production. And part of it is, make it look good. Find the right people, get the stories out of the people, and then just focus in on the content.
And now, what was it about the headphone invention?
So
Tell me about this.
So
this is very interesting.
This is when we used to
I'm
have.
dying to hear this shit.
This is when we used to have stores that used to sell electronics, right? You would have three
like
or
a
four
Radio
stores.
Shack.
Yeah, Radio Shack. Then there was Tiger. I forgot what it was before.
Hey, what the hell happened to Radio Shack? They just
Circuit
went out of
City,
business.
right? It was like Circuit City.
Good city.
Best Buy, obviously, still in business. But I remember I walked into one of those stores, and I wanted to buy headphones. And instead of one, because before headphones were hot, there was only one that you would buy for traveling. It was the Bose noise canceling headset, and they were like $200. Then they got expensive at $300.
Weren't they in that little box when they came out? They were in like a little flat box, and you flip them.
That's it. Yeah,
got those, right?
Yeah,
okay.
And speakers would people that were professional speakers that they would tell everybody you got to get this. So I went in to go get a set of headsets, and they had 2 aisles of headsets on both sides, all the way down. And that's when I realized something's changing, because when have we ever placed that much value on headsets before? It was either a cheap set and the Bose.
One or the other.
Yeah, now you got, Skull Candy, which is the DJ. You got Beats, right? And you Dr. Dre, they sold it for $1 billion. You have all these brands that some of them go up to $1,000 now. So that was the audio
I heard
revolution.
Skull Candy, I remember somebody saying, what is this, a new candy? And they're like, no, it's the best headphones in the world,
DJs,
but
yeah.
you can't get them. And then it went into like Xbox and everything else. And like, Skull Candy, what the fuck? Because at the time, it was Bose was the thing.
Right.
And then Beats was coming up. But, Skull Candy. But every fucking kid in the planet knew what the fuck Skull Candy was,
Yeah, exactly. The DJs love them. So, and they're not that expensive. But anyways, that's how you knew something was happening. We were valuing. So remember, podcasting is free, right?
Yeah.
But we were valuing what we were listening to by having a fashion statement on our heads. And then all of a sudden, you just look around, everybody's listening to something.
And then you go into a store and you see 2 aisles of headphones.
Well, yeah, it was an epiphany moment. I go, this is really taking off. Like I knew it was taking off, but when you go into a store and you see 2 aisles of headphones, all of society is adapting and it's changing overnight.
That's really interesting. That's really aware.
I wouldn't have thought of that, but not. Yeah, that's
because before that, you think about it now. It's just like when you talk to a young kid about the rotary phone. Yeah. They don't know how to use it, right? Or even the push is probably.
Yeah, they don't know that you got to spin it and then it spins back around.
Yeah, I saw a skit where the kid didn't know how to do it, and why would they, right?
Right.
But when I saw the headsets, I go, that's we're hitting a cultural moment where everybody's buying them because they're valuing what they're listening to, and they want something comfortable because they're spending hours listening to stuff, and that was the podcast revolution. That's what you're doing here.
It's so interesting that. When somebody sees things like you do, like I see things in my own way, in my, plus, Rob and his plus with his drone or whatever it is today. But, it's really interesting to kind of observe like how somebody else looks at something, and then it really makes complete fucking sense, Now, how do you hear things? Because you hear things differently than me and Rob, right? So when sound goes through your ears, it's different.
Yeah, so, for just any podcasters in general, one thing we realize, a lot of people don't like the sound of their voice. And it's because when you hear them through your ears, it doesn't sound like you because you hear them differently acoustically. So it's just something that you have to be careful of. For me, I have a trained ear where I listen to content very differently than most people because I'm critiquing how could it get better. The one thing I wanted to share with you is you talked about the headphones. What people don't realize is when YouTube came out, it took off. Remember they had the evolution of dance, and everybody saw there was a whole video, evolution of dance.
No, but when you said when YouTube came out, there was 10 other ones.
Yeah. YouTube was not the first video. It was the first that was popular, but there was 9 to 10 other ones. Vidler. Like, people don't remember, but Gary Vaynerchuk was pushing Vidler. He's like, oh, this is going to be huge.
Did you know that?
No.
Vimeo. Yeah, but Vimeo because it lasted. But there was like 9 other ones, and then there was tools that would let you aggregate your video to all 9 platforms. And then obviously YouTube, ate everybody's lunch. Vimeo survived because it was a higher quality for filmmakers and had a different niche. But what happened was when I remember this, when Google bought YouTube, I said that is the single best purchase any company has ever made, because now YouTube is one of the largest companies in the world. That alone is probably worth $200 billion, if not more. I don't know what it's worth in the Google kingdom, but it was a steal for what they got it for.
Hey, Google, can you Google what is YouTube worth?
Yeah. I don't know how they parse it out, but it's it's probably one of the best acquisitions. I think they sold for $1.8 billion or something like that. And I remember back then, if you look at the articles, biggest folly, it's what a flop. They bought something, makes no money, because monetization wasn't worked out.
So then YouTube comes in, but there was no podcasters.
So podcasting started So podcasting was around as an RSS feed, which is code, but in late 2004, podcasting was added to Apple in the podcast store, but it never took off. So the question is, why did podcasting lag behind video? because, Netflix took off with House of Cards, all this stuff, right? So you have to ask yourself, why did that happen? Well, there's one main reason. Where would we listen to most of our audio back in the day?
Radio.
And that was in the car, right?
Yeah.
So you had no need for podcasting because, one, Bluetooth-enabled devices didn't come out till the iPhone was able to Bluetooth enable years later.
Mm-hmm.
People don't trade out their car every year. Like, with your phone, you trade out every year. So you got YouTube, everything, right? And your computer fairly often. So it took the average person, changes out their car every 8 years. So that created this weird lag where podcasting, like, it didn't take off. It didn't start really going. It was always growing slow and steady, but somewhere around 2013, it just started booming. And the way we realized this is people would put a show up there on the Apple iTunes store, and they were like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have like 1,000 people listening to the thing. And you realize, like, there's something there. If you're not even marketing, you don't know what you're doing, you're putting it up there. And that's when a lot of people started jumping on to podcasting. And that was a very amazing time to watch people literally start shows overnight and have audiences 2 years later that were pretty sizable.
When did Bluetooth come out? When did they first come out with that?
I don't know, but it
sounds like that was kind of the game changer.
Yeah,
right?
when Bluetooth in your phone. But remember, well, here we go.
It just says annual revenue. 2020 was 19.7 billion.
Yeah, and those companies are worth 30 to 40 times earnings, right? So
yeah. And that's just what they didn't pocket on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a half $500 billion company probably based on that valuation.
Fucking crazy. Yeah, 8.1. Wow, look, from 2017 to 20.
I mean, Oh, it's much bigger now. I mean, in COVID, but yeah. That's going to happen with podcasting. We haven't hit it yet.
No,
as far as ad revenue. So like the ad revenue spent on podcasting, when I first started, it was like $10 million a year. I think now we just crested over $2 billion recently. So now it's going to start hitting the billions, and that's good because that means the content creators are going to share in the wealth as that ad revenue shifts to from radio to podcasting.
Right. Yeah. Why do you think it was YouTube at the time that took off? Because it was 8 other ones, but what was it about YouTube that everybody just merged to?
Well, it was free. The other ones I think were free too, but they couldn't figure out how to monetize. And then when Google bought it, I mean, they didn't have to monetize for a while, so it was free. You could just upload your stuff, instant down. I mean, you were getting views right away. People don't know this, but in the beginning, I think it was a star rating. You'd click 4 stars, 5 stars if you liked one. I remember my wife had helped her with the YouTube show, so it was, it had to find its legs. But once Google backed it, and they just kept refining it, and I think monetization started a few years later, 4 or 5 years later, because a lot of the creators were starving in the beginning, and they were like, I don't know if I'll keep going. And then all of a sudden, they started hitting the wind, with the money started coming in. That's what's happening right now with podcasting.
Now, did you initially want to be a creator, or once your wife went first and you saw like the programming end of it and kind of like in the background, is that when you kind of felt like this is what I love a little bit more?
Yeah, for me, I always like supporting creators. I don't know why. Maybe so I can be a creator, and I have been in the past, and I do have a small network called the Kid Friendly like Joke of the Day for kids, but I have a producer that does a lot of the production elements on it. I like being like a producer would be the right term, someone that produces an event or brings people together. So, in life you find what makes you happy. For me, like when I watch America's Got Talent and you see someone like getting better each time, I'll tear up at the end.
Yeah.
Like I have like a sense of pride of like when you see someone do well, and not everybody has that. So for me, that's something that I really enjoy, watching someone do well. So being able to provide a stage and bring people together. And I did. The only reason I got on in front of the camera was I couldn't find someone to produce the show and interview the way I wanted in the early years. So then I replaced them. I got on the camera. It was a pretty good show. And then we had the one show was called The Bleepin' Truth, and it was a political debate show back in the day.
Oh boy.
This was in 05, 06. And then the two pundits got into a war with words. It was really heated. The one guy left, and he threw a chair at the other guy on live TV. And they call it the chair heard around the world because it got carried out by all the affiliates. So, and then it put me kind of, in the crosshairs of station management. And they came after me. But I learned a lot. But you learned that there's no such thing as bad publicity, because then people start returning your calls.
I was going to say, you probably learned a lot, and then they're just returning the call because you're the headline.
They know who you are.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
Now, how hard was it to get your message out in the 90s? And I mean, now it's different, but the 90s versus, I mean, how hard was it then to get your message out as you see what's coming? How hard is it to get that out to people at that time when everybody's used to what? Because 90s, what were we? Cassette tapes or CDs?
Cassette tapes.
CDs
were in.
Well, let's paint a picture. So if someone wasn't alive then, you had probably 29 channels, about 30 channels, cable, and we're like, whoa, there's a lot of channels. MTV, VH1, those were the music channels. It's hard to believe, but they used to play music videos back then.
Remember TRL?
TRL, yeah.
What
happened to Carson?
Headbangers Ball, I liked Ricky Rackman. There's a lot of great guys. I don't know what happened to him. It was fun.
Remember, he went from TRL, and then he did like the late night with Carson.
Yeah, he was doing radio gigs too.
And that bombed, and then...
Ryan Seacrest, I guess, replaced all his jobs.
He just owns the fucking world. That fucking guy. Talk about a monopoly. I don't know how. I'd like to know how he's doing umbrella on top of umbrella on top of umbrella, but I give him credit.
But I was in school then, but I just remember, Oprah was in her prime. There was some talk show hosts. You had TV was pretty programmatic. You had Regis and Kathy Lee, who, if anyone knows, it's Kelly Ripa now. You had that was in the morning. You had news in the morning, then that entertainment show. Then you had soap operas. Then around 3 o'clock, it would shift to talk shows. 4 or 5 o'clock, news. Then you had Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. This is like, it's still a Price. Price is Right in the morning too. Then after that,
Price is Right. Remember Price is Right?
11 to noon.
11 to noon. Yeah. So you had this programming did not change. The only time people were able to have access to the airwaves was Carlton Sheets at night, and this guy would have a Hawaiian shirt. He was down in Palm Beach, and he'd be selling you a real estate course, or Tommy Vu, or whoever was able to negotiate TV time, and throw a credit card up there and buy TV time. That was the only access you had, and then you had public access in different cities. So I always tell people, how do you think we walked into TV stations back then? And people were like, I don't know how. Well, I go, either you were invited to be on a show, and if you're invited, you can't get on property until you clear security. And then before you clear security, the producer has to come get you, and then you go sit in the green room and wait. And people are like, oh, that's interesting. And if you tell this to a kid that has a green screen in their bedroom and they're on Twitch, they start laughing at you like, well, you guys live in the Stone Age.
Yeah. What are you, cavemen?
Yeah, what are you, cavemen? But what they don't realize is we were conditioned not to have access to media and watch a handful of people. And that's why Oprah, even though she had a great show, I really enjoyed her show, but it's a lot easier to be the top dog when there's only like 30 channels, and of that there's only 3 or 4 choices. It's much tougher now where you have, I would gather to say maybe even 1 million choices,
Who was Oprah's competition back then?
Phil Donahue. Geraldo for a bit.
Geraldo for a bit.
Then you had Sally Jesse, but I don't know if she was in the same time slot, but
I think it was Geraldo.
Geraldo and Phil Donahue.
I think that was the competition.
It was those 3.
He still hasn't cut that fucking mustache. How many fucking years I
That's his thing, man.
He's 80 years old. Like, if you look, he's got to be somewhere. Look at his age is something.
See how old Geraldo.
He's got to be 78. He's been around forever.
He's even got the bow things.
He looks great.
He looks fucking exactly the same.
The guy's a
lot of shit a lot of years ago.
The guy's amazing.
He's funny though.
But then you and I, we went through that transition, and then we went to the transition of the internet was born.
78.
70. Oh yeah, he's almost 80 years old.
Yeah. Damn, what, we got a psychic in here?
I didn't know that.
He's been around.
What color am I thinking right now?
Jesus.
What color am I thinking?
I'm gonna say purple, but I don't.
It was blue. Close enough.
Yeah,
just say purple.
I was gonna go for an outside choice.
Where were we before? What color you thought I liked?
But I was thinking of. Everything was centralized, and then the internet came out. And I think if someone was born after the internet, what they don't realize is we had to use our phone lines to get on AOL.
Dial-up.
Before that was it was Prodigy, but it was AOL, and you could hear the dial-up, and it's burned in all our heads.
Yeah.
And AOL would literally mail you 100 discs, so people would create montages of AOL discs, and they had chat rooms. So like Reddit chat rooms, that was the beginning of the internet, right?
Reddit was around back then?
No, but I'm saying the chat rooms, the AOL, if anyone's trying to think, it was like Reddit
Instant
groups.
Messenger.
Yeah, I just remember AOL Instant Messenger.
I remember my cousin, he would fish for people's passwords back then. He learned how to do it like Mailer Demon, whatever. But it was a lot of fun things that people were doing. So then you go from there to, okay, now we have some access, but video still is not robust. And all of a sudden we have choices. And in 04, 05, that's when podcasting and YouTube came out, and that changed the game. Then we went to hundreds to thousands of choices. Now we're in the phase of millions of choices, and now you have to realize the weird part about
Chris, just real quick, if we go back a little bit. Now, when the Apple, what was
iPhone?
iPod?
No, iPod. Not the first one, the one that you could spin.
Yeah, with the little wheel.
Did that have podcast on there at that time?
I think you could download podcasts to it,
but nobody was really paying attention
until it got into the iPhone. Is when it really.
How much do you think Apple, with the iTunes and everything, do you think that was a bit? I know YouTube, but do you think as far as podcasting in general,
that put it on the map?
That put it on the map.
Yeah, because still to this day, 60-70% of all downloads. Well, Spotify's putting a dent in it, but Apple.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't hear all about that in a little bit.
The majority of downloads, or a lot of them, come through the Apple universe.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and that's Steve Jobs'
Steve Jobs, he was
visionary. Yeah.
How far in advance do you think he had things planned out? He died.
I think he's rolling it over his grave because he had Siri.
Yeah.
And then they dropped the ball on that, and now you got Alexa as the leader in Google Mini. He had Siri before anyone knew what that was.
Yeah. So. He would
already integrate that into your home. We would have Siri. You'd have Siri running the board right now if it was he was still around.
Siri, hey, can you look this up?
But if it was up to Steve Jobs, I guarantee you, he'd have Siri running your house right now.
If you look at some of his patents that he had drawn, they came out with the home thing that was supposed to be the Alexa of now. Steve Jobs was already on top of that, but they fucked it up.
Well, I think
they put it out, pulled it back, put it out.
I think Elon Musk is in today's days picking up where Steve Jobs left off, because if you see some of the things that Steve Jobs would say back in the day, I don't know if you've ever seen the video where he tried to get the permit for the spaceship for his thing. You ever see where he goes to the town?
Yes. And they're like, "What the fuck? Are you crazy?"
Not only that, but he explains how it's like environmental. It's got an orchard. I mean, it's
the
most amazing thing,
down.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Your job." is to collect taxes, leave me alone. My job is to, he tells them then how the structure of everything works.
Yeah.
He was I don't think I think some people realize how unique he was, but a lot of people don't give him credit because he wasn't necessarily he was the innovator, and he might not have been the technologist, but he understood the technology and he understood how to innovate it. He was a very rare human being.
He had that vision. He
wasn't that pleasant too. I mean, if you read the bios,
everybody says he was the biggest dick in the world,
but he got it done, right?
But he got it done. That's what I was gonna say. If you just say, hey, Chris, could you please can you please make this piece of paper into an iPhone that everybody can touch, please? Or if you say, Chris, I'm gonna fire you in 2 weeks if you don't figure out how.
In today's world, he'd be who knows what would happen.
Oh, jeez, he'd be doing 20 years. He'd have abuse charge.
More than likely,
SWAT team would come get him.
It's just crazy how much technology within a short period of time. I mean, you think about cavemen, right? With lettering and things like that, to when we've gone from cassette tapes, seems like forever ago, to cassette tapes, to digital downloads, to what we're going into now. How fast, Moore's Law, as they call it, Moore's Law, how fast technology is moving. It's crazy.
You know what else, though? I agree with you. And then there's some things you're like the Egyptians talked in symbols. And now here we are talking in memes. So it's the
same thing.
Same thing. We can't read symbols because it was memes back then, right? It was symbolic. And now here we are back talking to symbols. No one knows how to spell anymore.
Chris, you just said pyramids, so this has nothing to do with what you do, but your mind, I need to know what you think. How did they build those fucking pyramids?
Well, you got the,
they're in Colombia, Mexico too?
Yeah, they're under the rainforest.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
All I could tell you is we don't really know how we were seated here. I mean, if you look at those little gummy bears, or the bears, you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
I forgot the name.
I do too. What the fuck?
But it was floating out in space.
We talked about it before, Rob.
Yeah.
The thing with the pyramids, though, that's an interesting one because they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. So then there's one of two things, in my opinion. One, either there was a lot of disciplined people there that just over time did it. Kind of hard to believe. Two, different type of human being. 3, ate a lot of mushrooms and DMT and got it done. 4, other life.
When you see now, they're saying that the Sahara was like a forest, only
Yeah.
like 10,000 years ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know how
And tons of fucking mushrooms in there too, by the way.
while the Egyptians were alive, the woolly mammoths were still alive. You know that?
No,
Yeah.
really.
There was an island off of Russia somewhere where there was still woolly mammoths still alive on the earth in the very beginning of the Egyptian civilization. I think they were still around 12 to 15,000 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, but then what happens is when they get isolated, they become like, I forgot what they call it, but there's some kind of functionally extinct or whatever.
Did you see that species they just found not too long ago? It's from like 40 gazillion years ago. It's a dinosaur, and its arm is cut off here, and it's a whole civilization that they didn't know about. They knew nothing about it.
Of dinosaurs.
Yeah, look, click on that right there, the top one. See that? Look at that thing.
Oh, wow.
They didn't even know that existed. They just found this out.
Look at the little arm.
The dinosaur named, however you say that.
In Argentina, have identified a new species of dinosaur which likely had such feeble forms it would make Tyrannosaurus Rex look like Popeye in comparison. Named I can pronounce
Guinness.
Look,
Soya.
70 million years old.
Single skull is being thought to belong to the clade of tiny armed carnivores known as Apsilurius, which is wow. That's cool. I like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, no, with the pyramids, I'm with you.
I know it's a little off. I just wanted to show you. That's
No,
a little
but
crazy.
it's pretty incredible that they show up all over the world.
All over. I didn't know that they were in Mexico until I started reading more and more and more.
Well, and the ancient Greeks also had that, the Antikythera, the first mechanical object that they found in wreckage.
Yeah.
So, you know, what was going on if they already had mechanical stuff then?
I think they had a whole town, city, whole thing, and they just got wiped out.
I think the greatest civilizations get wiped out from within.
Yeah.
And
Kill themselves, basically.
yeah, they get complacent, or you know, who knows? Like you said, who knows what really happened?
Yeah. All right, back to YouTube.
No, I mean it's it's really interesting. Who knows?
No, really,
You know?
it's like when you start thinking about it, like that. That's a Bob Lazar light. Like the top of that, you know Bob Lazar?
Of course.
Yeah. I'll tell you about it later.
I interviewed during one of my interviews. I interviewed Ted Gunderson, who was former FBI. He's passed since, but he had some amazing stories.
Yeah.
And I got to interview him before he passed, so we brought him in.
What did he
back in
think?
the day.
What did he think?
He-
a lot of other life.
He
here?
was well, he had more on the cults and the different things that was going on that they were covering up, you know, and then they painted him as a quack. And who knows? You know, it's all gray. You don't know what's true or not. But he had a lot of interesting things. I'll tell you that.
I bet he did. So where were we with YouTube?
Well, no,
Yeah.
with media, you know,
Yeah.
we're now living in a world of choice. So the question is, how are you standing out when there's infinite choices? And now, social media, we only have like 5 or 6 big social media. If you think about it, we're at the beginning of NBC, ABC, when the 5 networks were out, we're 5 social medias. But now, with the decentralization and everything, we're gonna have limitless choices. It's gonna be endless. So the question is, how do you get people's attention? And that's the art form.
Now, what about all the censoring with YouTube? That as a creator, I mean that stunts the growth of a lot of creators, especially when they're throwing in ridiculous censors.
Yeah, so I know of people that aren't even talking about politics. They're talking about natural remedies, food that
Right.
heals people, and they're getting thrown off their email service providers. So when people are looking at the surface level censorship, they don't realize how deep it gets to where there's stuff you're like, really?
How deep does it get?
It gets pretty deep. There's a lot of people getting censored that you're like, how's that even? You ask yourself, how's it even related? And it goes back to, you know, big pharma and things.
The whole.
So if you have
circle.
natural remedies, they're trying to keep all that. So I think, especially with Elon now buying Twitter, we'll see. But I think that's a step in the right direction. Honestly, with Web3, which is the decentralization of everything on the blockchain. So Web3 is the internet built off the blockchain.
Let's start with Elon. So what was your thoughts? Did you think he would actually buy it?
I thought it was pretty ballsy, and I thought that they were not going to allow him to buy it. But I guess there was so many different angles going on behind the scenes, and Jack Dorsey then flipped on him that he was for it. That we'll still see. I mean, you know, you got 6 months
before he can really take over.
Well, what I think is happening now is they're cleaning up the code before he gets it. So
I think so, because things are starting to pop up.
A lot of people are seeing.
Because once that's open source, woo.
Yeah, I'm okay with letting both sides say their piece,
Sure.
and the fringes of those sides are upset, but everybody gets a seat at the table. I think it got a little too one-sided for a bit there, so now it's equalizing out.
Now, if he does do what we think he's going to do when he does take it over, how much do you think that will help podcasters?
It depends. It depends what he does. So if he decentralizes it, which is a possibility, people are like, oh, I hope he does it where he doesn't make money, but he just took out, loan against his stock. So someone's got to pay that back, right? And I'm sure there's a way to do it. But for podcasters, you have to understand, when Twitter was in its heyday a few years back, it was the number one driver. If you were tweeting out certain episodes, people were seeing down.
Yeah, Twitter was number one.
Not number one, but for a lot of people, it was one of the top drivers of inbound traffic when it was at its. We're talking about like in 2015, 16, 17. People would tweet stuff out, and they were getting people checking it out. So if it goes back to that, it could be a huge driver. But he might incorporate podcast feeds into Twitter. He might incorporate video into Twitter. So, and then Spotify, has Rogan. So they're incorporating video now, and they're incorporating a wider stance too. So you have two companies that are kind of having more of a free speech stance versus the other companies that are already saying, hey, you can't say this, can't say this. They've really narrowed it down. So you can see a lot of competition.
That's good. That's great.
It's good for the content creator, absolutely.
Yeah. And because then that makes everybody fight harder to try to be the best. Now, do you think when Elon does have the board and Spotify continues to grow, do you think YouTube will start to shift some of their censorship strictness when they see that they're starting to lose, or do you think that's just how they're going to be?
So even YouTube has censorship. It tends to be, it's not as strict as some of the other stuff. It still lets some things fly. I think they're all going to have to shift because the money is going to dictate everybody's behavior. So as things grow, I think of course, because now you could say, hey, I'll go, if Twitter all of a sudden adds a video thing and they already have people on the platform, it's going to cross-check everybody. It's good that Spotify's adding video. You need a cross-check. YouTube has controlled it so much. If anyone doesn't know, the ad platform, the way it works is, they call it, so originally it's CPM, which is cost per 1,000. M is milieu or whatever. It stands for 1,000. YouTube calls it, I think it's RPM.
It's RPM.
Because that's after their cut.
Yeah, it's after their
That's the revenue you're getting.
Yeah, after their 40% cut.
40%, right.
Yeah, which people don't realize.
So think about that.
40% cut.
If they have $20-30 billion in revenue or whatever, 50, that $22 billion is that 40% cut.
Absolutely.
So that's a big cut.
It's a huge cut.
And if Twitter comes in and says, hey, we want some of that money, or these other platforms, they're going to fight. So part of it is going to start looking at those policies and maybe being a little looser.
Do you think there should be some censorship? And when I say that, this is the tough question, right? Like censorship in a case of, you can go down rabbit holes with conspiracy theories, right? People say things that you physically know are not true. They're putting it out there. They get a following, or, I don't know, let's bring a bomb and we're going to do this today. Bad stuff. Do you think there should be a form of censorship somehow?
So remember, I came from public access where, if people think Alex Jones is back, go at any local public access and see what people are saying. There's very little that I think should be censored unless it's extremely dangerous. But like conspiracy theories don't hurt anyone.
Sure.
I know people believe in them. But yes, there is a line. Where is that line? I think we're too narrow right now. We need to open that up and be fair to both sides.
Yeah.
Because conspiracy theories go both ways too.
Sure.
So I think, yes, to answer your question, here's the problem. I'll give you an example. I used to have a business association for small business owners. And I remember once we wanted to give money back to the small business owners. How do you decide who gets the money? You have 300 business owners. Okay, this one's worked for 10 years. This one's worked for 20 years. This one's a single mom. This one's a single father. So we started going through thousands of variables, who should get the money and how to justify if it's fair or not. So it's very tough. So you're better off most of the time staying out of it and only getting involved in the very extreme cases.
Because I just think sometimes you look at some things and I look at it from, I don't know when the downfall of Earth will be. We always talk about this,
Yeah.
but the downfall of society. There's a double-edged sword. Social media is always a double-edged
Of course.
sword. Everything's
And
always a
so
double-edged
will
sword.
Web3 and crypto. It's just going to take some time to
double-edged
figure it out.
But
Yeah.
like, when could that really turn bad if you don't censor some things? You give everyone a free range to say what they want and incite things. Sometimes I think it can go down a bad path. In my opinion, that's just an opinion. Of course, I just don't know.
I think just a tiny bit of censor where something drastic. You create the algorithm in the code where it has to be a drastic keyword, like, something that I don't want to say on here, but something drastic. Because if I call you a dick and you call me a dickhead and I say, you're a cracker, I'm a cracker. Right. Now that shouldn't be censored.
Right.
Because we're just bickering, right? But right now, we would be censored, if we weren't joking, possibly.
Right now, I don't think anyone knows where the line is. Everybody's afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cash App. Go to cash.app. Cash App, the easiest way to send money, spend money, save money, and buy cryptocurrency. Cash App believes in providing everyone with access to important financial services so they can fully participate in the economy. Sign up today for Cash App. Use the code MSCS. Additionally, once signed up, create an invite code. When a friend uses the invite code and sends $5 or more from a newly created Cash App account, another bonus will arrive within 14 days. That's cash.app, or download the app and sign up. Cash App.
And what happens is that then hides things in the shadows and you don't know what someone's thinking.
Well, it holds back a creator.
Yeah.
And it also holds back the conspiracy theories like we were talking about. And although some of them might be way out there, however, a lot of those conspiracy theories, part of the conspiracy theory, there was true theory in it, which then created inventions.
Yeah.
So when you don't have that kind of conversation, then a lot of these things we're looking at and using now might not be here.
So if you look in the early 1900s when the U.S. had tonics and potions, right? Cocaine was in Coca-Cola and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, back then there was a lot of charlatans. But those charlatans, one guy created chiropractic that we still have. And this will tie it back to what we're doing here. Dr. Brinkley created the first, paid infomercial because no one knew what to do with radio. So when radio first came out, they would have like an orchestra playing and you would put it on and no one knew what to do with it. So this one guy who was a quack, he used to do goat testicle transplantation for $5,000. He would tell men he would restore their virility by putting goat testicles and slitting their scrotum.
Did an infomercial?
Yeah. Back then, he had the radio.
Or was it like the
station.
3 o'clock fucking commercial?
But back then, no one knew what was going on. So he was cleaning house because it was daytime, telling you, Dr. Brinkley's cure or whatever. But he created, he put country music. He created the first infomercials. He created doctors' tonics, all this stuff. One guy.
What a
But he was
monster,
crazy
huh?
because when he was doing the goat testicle thing, people died. People died. Yeah. So the funny part was he was so bad, they revoked his licenses for his radio station. So then he was like in Texas. So he moved his radio station. I don't know if it was El Paso, but something like that on the other side, on the Mexican side. And it was a 1 million watt station. You could look it up. Dr. Brinkley, he was blowing out all the windows in the cars, and you could hear the feed in Greenland back then.
That's so awesome.
So anyways, the guy was a character. He made millions, and he basically, but because of what he was doing, the AMA at the time, they were also charlatans, but they were a little bit more accurate. And I read a book about it. They used him as the poster boy because he was a perfect charlatan. And that's how the American Medical Association consolidated power. And you were either represented by them or you weren't. And then since then, medicine started getting centralized from the late 1920s. So there are benefits to those experimentations. And now we're at where you can't say anything. And if you say the wrong thing, or if you're reading the science and literally repeating what you're saying, they could ban you. I mean, there's clips of Fauci being banned, old clips of him being banned through the algorithms today based on new rules. So it's kind of crazy. So I think we're about to enter the decentralization age, and it's going to throw everything on its head.
Now, how far do you see that away? Just give or take.
It's tough to, I would say 5 years from now, we'll see like the first fruits of the labor. But right now the plumbing's being put in. So a lot of people see it from like the price of crypto. they don't realize all that stuff is technology. Stuff is being built on these blockchains. So the plumbing has to be put in first. So right now, so the way it works, very simply, there's going to be search. You know how Google searches the web?
Yeah.
People don't realize the next search algorithms are going to search the blockchain. It's totally different. The search bar is not going to be Google. It's going to be something else that searches these blockchains because there's websites built off the blockchain.
So you would build a website off blockchain.
There's decentralized
technology.
websites. It's called the Handshake that you could build that you own.
The Handshake, yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's like a penny every other year. You just have to pay that to make sure you're still alive to renew the domain.
Just gotta make sure you're still alive.
Yeah, it's a penny every other year just to make sure the person's
Kind of funny
still.
when you think about
Just
it.
to ping them and you're still around.
So now, why do you think that Spotify is going to kill? Why do you think that's going to end up?
So
crushing?
Spotify took YouTube's model, and because podcasting has a lot of players. There's a lot of hosting companies, and they're all doing well actually, because you have to pay to host your RSS feed. So the first thing Spotify did, bought Anchor. Anchor was a free hosting service provider. All of a sudden, all these podcasters came in.
Because now you have Anchor competing basically with Buzzsprout, right? That's
Buzzsprout, all these great hosts. Yeah,
Yeah.
Podbean, Podbean, Lipson,
Podbean,
and they're all good. They're all solid. But it literally gave them tons of podcasts. And with music, people don't realize they don't make a lot of money off the music, even though they barely pay out fees, whatever. But podcasting is a cash cow because the podcaster does it for free. They could put tons of ads. Advertisers want to be in front of podcasters because the podcasters are talking about content that's rich in nature. And then YouTube model, they take whatever, 20, 30% off the top. It's pure profit.
Yeah.
You become an ad agency, basically, the world's largest.
Yeah, but why do you see Spotify?
They literally have bought, if you look up how many acquisitions they've done, they've bought Chartable, they've bought all the analytics companies. They've bought.
Whoa! You got to break all this down. I didn't know this.
Yeah, so Spotify. Look
What'd
up.
they buy?
Chartable used to be. It still is. It helps you track the stats of where you're ranked. So Spotify just bought it. So Spotify bought all the analytics.
Whoa!
So they have the best analytics because they
Really?
bought all the companies. They bought Megaphone, which is one of the top monetization arms. So Spotify owns end to end the universe.
Wow!
And they're about to, run the table on growth.
So they're basically building up.
They got all the listeners for music, and they're all young.
Yeah.
They got the next demographic.
So you have all of that. Then you have the podcast. Then they're not censoring shit. They just put a little thing on top. If you talk about COVID or you say something they don't like, there's just a little bar.
So so now obviously with Twitter, that was a good play on their part, right? So they're on that side of the equation. They have more freedoms. But then, you know how Facebook, you could do ads? Spotify has that, right?
No.
You didn't know that?
Did they have ads?
So for your show, you could literally buy a Spotify ad to target a certain segment of podcast to play in front of their podcast about your show. But the beauty is they've dummy-proofed the ads because remember, there have to be audio.
Mm-hmm.
So they will make the ad for you. All you do is write the script. You tell them what kind of voice you want. They record it for you and bring it back to you. 30-second ad. Then you just
Spotify. But how? If you have? But I have video though. I got the exclusive video thing.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You could do a video ad, audio ad, Spotify. Look up Spotify ads. It's huge.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the best platforms ever created to put ads in front of all kinds of stuff.
That's some of the companies that are
Holy
pulled
shit.
up.
Wow, they are spending money.
They've acquired quite a few. Wishka was out of Australia, I believe.
Megaphone, a podcast.
Megaphone's that was a big one. That's one of the largest monetization houses.
Look,
on the
Spotify
planet.
acquired Megaphone, a podcast advertising platform, for $235 million in November 2020. They've been building. Look, in 19.
They started in 2019.
Yeah,
and
they
then
bought Anchor.
If you look at all their acquisitions, it's literally like 40, 50 companies. You just look at the biggest ones.
Holy shit! And then they're gonna build that up.
And
then,
Rogan's their largest lead gen.
Yeah, he's killing.
They're letting go of the people that aren't producing, so they just let
It's
go
just gonna be
of the Obamas because $25 million for 8 episodes wasn't worth it. Whereas Rogan is just pushing millions of subscribers.
Killing it. And at first he kind of went down, and now he.
Well, he said
actually,
during
I
the
think COVID helped
controversy, just recently, they said during the controversy, Rogan added 2 million subscribers.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, so their stock hit almost $300. Now they're down sub 100, but that's I think more market forces because their earnings just beat expectations. It's just right now we're heading into a winter, so to speak.
Yeah, I think so too. Now AI, artificial intelligence. Now that could, in my opinion, from where I stand, it could be the end of us, or it could be a great thing. I agree with Elon. I think they should have an AI force They refuse to listen to probably the smartest guy. Well, in my opinion, the smartest guy on the planet by far. And he's been preaching for years. Look, we need an AI force. What's your thoughts on AI? Because it could go a lot of different fucked up ways.
If it goes the way I think it's going to go, we'll be replaced. We'll be extinct. I think just like the dinosaurs, two things that people don't pay attention to. Our birth rate has been falling for a very long time.
Yes, it has.
And if you look at the young kids, they don't have kids.
Yep.
So like, if you look at, in order for you to replace yourself, a couple, you have to produce like 2.3.
I remember back before, every family had 3, 4, 5
correct.
kids, right?
No one's doing that.
Now you have only childs all the time.
Only kids,
and
some
a lot
twos.
of twos.
Very rare you'll see a 3.
Nothing like before.
And then tons of couples not having any kids.
At all. They just want to be alone.
Well, now think about the kids that are playing games that don't want to be bothered with even dating.
Right.
So it's gonna, I don't know. Listen,
no, but you're onto something.
I think we're not gonna replace ourselves, and in that need, we'll use artificial intelligence to replace that lack of, human whatever, and then eventually, AI probably we go extinct.
I think so too.
I don't know when, but
I always picture this. Like I always picture the way when I think we really see a change, and I think Rob said it or I said it, we both said it. One day you're going to grab the newspaper, might have been you, and you're going to see like Nancy for, $3.99 for the month. And Nancy comes in and she says, "Chris, you look so beautiful today. Wow, your breath smells so great." If you had bad breath, or like if you're big and fat, "Wow, you're losing weight, Chris. How are you? Would you like a beer? Would you like it cold? What would you like for dinner tonight?" And an AI that's moving just like a person. "Chris, would you like a hug?" Now, here's this guy, they can't get a girl to save his life, doesn't go anywhere, just like sits on the couch. When you start seeing that kind of shit where you can get that, then
it's going to be,
I'm making it into
you could even program
thing.
Nancy to be a bitch if you want to be, have someone give you a hard time.
Yeah,
make it more realistic.
If you just want to fucking argue with her and then fuck her after you argue with her, you can do that.
So like I think
if you want to have makeup sex,
it's going to take a while, but when it gets there, it's going to be kind of scary. Now, if we colonize Mars, does the famous thing? I think Elon or someone's like, "Oh, we'll go to Mars, the humans." He's like, "You don't think AI is going to follow you there? Or you're going to need it to do everything." So
yeah, because he wants to put those. He wants to build like a NASA on the moon and then launch from the moon to Mars because it's much easier. Well, I guess it's a direct shot.
Well, first off, you have the next phase of computing is quantum computing.
Yeah.
So that'll crack any code.
Yeah.
So you have to have better codes.
We had Beto in here, who not only was beating the speed of light, he was doing all this quantum shit. Way beyond.
So the Bitcoiners, believe it or not, a lot of those guys, they're already working on solutions to quantum computing.
Really?
There's a friend of mine, Doug, who does Real Random, and he's got a whole thing of how to randomize things so the quantum computer can't break it. But that's the world we're about to enter.
Is that possible that the quantum computer couldn't break something? Who knows, right, Chris? Who knows?
I don't know, but it seems like he's got a good handle on it. Shout out to him and Real Random. But
shout out, even the possibility that you could do it. Shout out, right?
There's always, remember, it's a cat and mouse. There's always someone beating the system, and then when that system is beaten, the next person. Yeah. So we're in for these next 20, 30 years. We're in for a wild ride. Right now, we're back into like the tribal stage. Wars. We'll see what happens with all the different tribes around the world, but we're staking our claim and fighting over dirt.
Yeah. Now, can you break down Web3 to me in simple terms? You promised.
Yeah. So Web3. I'm going to explain it the way
this is round 4, Rob.
And Rob, I'm going to explain it the way I understand it. Okay.
Right.
So think of the internet as a centralized piece of information through the ICANN group, and you have to we have to buy domains, and it goes through a centralized body. Web3 are decentralized blockchains, so Bitcoin is a blockchain, Ethereum is a blockchain, and I'm not going to go into the 100 other things, but they're all technology layers. Okay. Web3 is information built off of these blockchains, and in some ways it's decentralized. So they have a term. The new apps are called dApps, decentralized apps. So when you hear a technologist say a dApp, understand that's a decentralized app off a blockchain.
Okay.
So now if I want to create an app, a DApp, I put it on the blockchain, and now it does whatever I want it to do. In order for all of this stuff is built on what they call proof of stake. In order for that thing to work, I need it to be verified by a decentralized group of computers.
But what's proof of stake?
Proof of stake is, let's say you built an app that says, when I'm watching your show, I pay you in Bitcoin.
Okay.
Based on the viewer time.
I see.
Who's refereeing that? In a trustless environment?
Me.
The computers.
The computers.
So you're programming that in your app.
Right. So I'm thinking I'm going to code it in the app to
correct. Yeah.
To tell me what I want it to do.
Because you have that skill set. But you have that skill set.
But I fucked that up.
So someone creates the app with the set of rules, but who verifies that? The nodes, and that's what they call the nodes. But basically, a set of computers, servers, that have the information. They send out a relay. So the app sends out a relay, says, "Hey, Chris wants to give Tommy some money, Bitcoin." The relay goes to a computer, says, "That's accurate," and verifies it. Instantly, you have the money. This all happens within nanoseconds. Now, what happens if the computer doesn't do the right job? It gets thrown off the network. So it can't. You get punished, and then immediately it doesn't go through because there's ways to stop the relay. So the basically.
But then that would mean that W3 won't work, right?
No, Web3 will.
Web3.
Web3 will work, but there's a system. It's a trustless system that computers have to follow the code. You're always updating your code. I mean, that's one of the things with all this stuff. Like, people don't realize you can't just build it.
Yeah,
it's never ending.
Yeah, never ending.
I love when someone has like I'm sure you've seen this. They have like a new app.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, my work is done." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Your work just began. You just launched it, right?" They go, "Yeah." I go, "Now you're going to update that first year late."
Yeah.
Until you sell it, if you're lucky enough to sell it.
I remember the first app I built, I thought, oh, shit, this can't be that bad. Holy fuck.
Well, nonstop.
Oh, and then try submitting it to Apple. A good 3 to 6 months, and if it's not absolutely perfect, and they take 40% too.
Yeah, so these are just...
That's interesting. Chris, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Everybody always bitches that Apple takes 40% of the apps. Facebook was having a fit. They all
Spotify too, yeah.
Spotify too, all of them. But it's not like out there that, hey, YouTube, every dollar that you make, they're taking 40% of that.
Yeah, I guess because Apple's so big and everybody has to go through it. Even the biggest companies in the world. Right?
Or being that they're kind of in a competition, one's pressed because we search Google and one isn't.
Right.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So keep going on about Web3.
So Web3, just the main thing is everything's built off these blockchains. And just remember DApps, digital decentralized apps. That's what they're known as. And then your proof of stake is verified by the node. So there's a lot of tech in there, but it's basically the internet built off a whole different structure.
So it's basically just a decentralized web.
Yeah, the good thing is no one could just... So the benefit of it is, like, right now, if someone doesn't like you, they could literally wipe you off like you don't even exist. Where at least with the blockchain, it's a lot harder to just erase someone off the blockchain.
That is the best we've heard it.
Yeah, I just never understand, but can there be, like, I'm just going to, a ruler of a world, right, that still gets control of that blockchain and can fucking destroy or wipe out. Always somebody with bad intentions, right? Always.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Like, remember social media? We all thought it was great, and now we see how there's always different polarities.
Someone, yeah.
So for Bitcoin or the blockchain, we're going to see this experiment play out. And are things trackable? Absolutely. Is that bad? Depends.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, but I think the progress of innovation, the new things will come out, and the upgrades will come out. But it remains to be seen. But I agree with you. Bad actors. I look at it as like Jedis and like Sith Lords. It's just never ending. It's always going to.
That's a great way to put it.
In other words, it's always going to be like
Sith
that.
Fucking lords. That's a great way to put it.
We can't change it. There's always going to be someone gaming the system and someone trying to, like China tried to corner Bitcoin. They couldn't. And that's because of the protocol, and there's so many different people that are in there, and they built it that way.
You're not scared of Bitcoin? See,
In the trackable, and that is trackable, and what?
like Bitcoin, like the generalized Bitcoin, where you go online, you buy it through Coinbase, or, you go, my friend had like 30 gazillion Bitcoin
You lost
ATM
them?
machines.
Oh,
No, he made a killing and then
Yeah.
just got out of it. Because every time, if you would put your card in, 35% fee
Yeah,
on
of
top
course,
of the
yeah,
initial
yeah.
fee.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
by the time if you made 1,000, you might get, $440 just to get the cash out quick.
for me, I like Bitcoin because it's a store of value, decentralized, and then people in different countries are able to get a seat at the table. Maybe small portions, but they trust it better than their local governments.
But you're not afraid that you could wake up tomorrow and if you have 100,000 in Bitcoin, it could just be gone.
Well, it depends how you store it. You mean like if they just shut down the whole protocol?
Yeah, I don't mean blockchain in general. I think blockchain.
You mean just losing it?
Yeah, I mean Bitcoin, like where it goes 40,000,
Oh,
2,000, that bullshit.
No, I'm long term, so I don't care.
So you're into the blockchain.
I'm in
of the
long
whole
term.
thing,
I'm like,
long-term.
I'll fall asleep. I don't care.
Yeah, I think the blockchain is going to be the banks too. I think they're going to really heavily use it on that.
Of course, yeah.
Now, I want your opinion on this. So everybody says, 5G. Correct me if I'm wrong. There is no fucking 5G for the cell phones. 5G is never, well, not never. There's not going to be a 5G, in my opinion, from my studies, to your cell phone. That's more meant for massive, like an Amazon or like a Cisco or something like that. 5G is not what they're saying it is. 5G is built for massive companies and robots and shit like that. Am I correct, or am I just on another planet?
I'm not knowledgeable enough, but I mean they say Japan has it. I don't know if it's a high speed 4G for the whole country. I think Starlink is the one that if Elon gets it right, we'll be using that.
Yeah, and then that would be
I think
Starlink.
that's the one that because he's
that's
got
the one
those
that
in
will
low
hit.
orbit and they're a fraction
Yeah.
of a second quicker than everything.
And then where do you see Apple in 10 years?
It's tough because
I'm sorry, I apologize. Where do you see their main source of revenue in 10 years?
that's a great question. They've fallen behind on a lot of things.
They're
man.
fucking up with that Apple TV because they
Yeah.
can make that something.
They're falling behind on so many things. I see Spotify taking a lot of their on-demand, podcasting universe and music.
Me too.
And then you got Alexa with Amazon.
So that's dead. So they might as well not even waste their
The
time
data
with that
lake.
home thing.
Meanwhile, they had that. But remember when Siri came out? I was like, holy crap! I could talk to my
Yeah.
phone and she talks
And-
back.
Siri reminded me like BlackBerry. BlackBerry was the shit, remember?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
they never updated the fucking internet.
It was what it was.
You would go on the internet and you would have the iPhone and the
Like-
Samsungs, and they would never. Oh, I kept my BlackBerry as long as I could.
I like the Nextel. Beep beep.
Oh, I love it. What
Oh,
happened
the
to that?
two-way.
Those were
That-
great.
That's when things were
the
simple.
walkie-talkie.
Oh, no.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, Nextel
That
was the best.
best.
My neighbor was a firefighter. They all had Nextel.
Yeah. Did you have the silver one with the blue on?
I loved my neighbor because he was the guy
Those
that would take care of all the kids. He always had the Nextel on
Yep.
his satchel, and him and his buddies just like
Beep beep. Hey, where you
I
going?
might buy one of them just to fucking
just a
have one.
walkie-talkie phone. I mean, it was great.
Dude, I might have to. I have to.
If anyone's listed, we had phones that were walkie-talkies too. They
Oh
were-
yeah.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
StarTAC. Remember the StarTAC? The
Yeah.
little- yeah.
That
Motorola
was cool as
StarTAC.
shit.
But iPhone once that came out,
Yeah.
I remember asking a friend which one's better. He goes, "Have you seen Apple do anything with the iPhone?" I go, "No, they just upgrade the software." He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Is that the answer?" He goes, "Yeah, the other ones have to change stuff. The iPhone, the guy just updates the software. You got a new phone." So
See,
back then,
I had the
wow.
BlackBerry. I got talked into getting the iPhone. I got it, and it just I couldn't feel the keys. Got rid of it.
Went back to
Do you
BlackBerry.
real
No.
quick while we're on the
Yeah,
iPhone,
yeah.
do you think that, I'm not saying maybe the next iPhone 14 or whatever we're on right now, within the next 2 years, I'm going to say 2, you think you'll have holographic images and things?
Oh yeah, I have a friend that is already working on that kind of stuff. It's already out there. They just got to integrate it.
Yeah.
Like that, like the Matrix, right? Where you kind of
They have where it
pops up.
Yeah, they have pops up, but they even have where your phone just everything becomes the metaverse is really what that is.
Yeah.
And then they'll slowly probably shrink that down into.
Yeah,
where
the
your
problem is they
phone-
got to figure out how to integrate it all, but it's all there.
Yeah.
Like you could put your show in the metaverse, someone walks in the room and they could be watching the show right now.
Oh, that's amazing. And you could be at, like, if you want floor seats at the Lakers games or any game, or a concert or whatever.
Why would you even go?
You wouldn't go. You just put glasses on, pay.
Massage chair at your house or whatever.
Yeah, put the money in the massage chair instead of the
Absolutely.
$5,000 fucking seat.
Yeah,
and you don't. And if you got a wife, you won't get yelled at about spending the money.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a win-win fucking situation there.
It's
right?
my wife and I were walking the neighborhood and we see this kid and he's like dancing around the garage. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? He had
Oculus.
Oculus on,
Yeah.
and he's playing some game. And I go, Katie, that's what's going to happen to like humanity. We're all going to be boxed in.
Yeah.
It is
And then
true.
once that happens, right? You're not even going to go to the bathroom. You just connect some tubing. You're sitting there playing games. And now with Web3, people are making money. I don't know if you guys know this, but they're hiring guilds. Have you heard about this?
I just know some girl farted in a jar and made
Oh,
it
God,
$10 with TikTok.
Crazy. But no, they have now where they're having problems with farmers in like the Philippines and Sri Lanka because gamers here are hiring them to play games.
Oh, shit.
Because the games unlock NFTs and benefits.
Yeah.
And then they figure out how to convert it all the way to Bitcoin and then to dollars. So they're paying these people to play games. And the guild, right? Think of that as a league.
Mm-hmm.
Is you have a manager to motivate people to play 8 to 10 hours. So no one's farming anymore. They're playing games. And then the craziest part about these guilds, I've talked to a couple of my friends. They go, the problem is you have to have like managers to keep them pumped up so they could keep playing for 10, 12 hours. I go, they make you more money. I go, they're making more money than they ever would make out on the fields. So now there's no labor because
We need the robots.
and then if a kid's really good, they get better contracts.
Yeah.
And then you sign them to contracts to play for you. And then you make money by converting.
We can't let my son hear this episode.
Yeah, don't let him hear this. Listen to this. Some of these kids that came out of Polytech over there in Orlando, whoa! I mean, I'm talking $20, $30 million playing a game.
Wow.
Yeah. Just playing that fucking game all day long on Stitch, whatever.
Twitch, yeah.
Twitch.
No, I don't play
know
any
that
games,
stuff.
but
Yeah.
it's every time you hear it, there's something new, and there's a lot of different games.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I just know a little bit of like the analytics.
My last game was like Duck Hunt, and then Sonic the Hedgehog was a little too
Duck
advanced.
Hunt was the best. Man.
Yeah, once they added more buttons on the controller, I was out.
What was your favorite? What'd you like more, Nintendo or Sega Genesis?
My heyday was Nintendo. Sega was better, and I liked it, but we never had it. I don't know if we could afford it. But we stuck with Nintendo, and then Game Boy. Tetris.
Game Boy, yeah.
Tetris was the best.
That was the
Yeah,
best.
yeah.
That was the best. Did you have an Atari?
Of course, yeah. My actually, we didn't have it. My cousin did, so I drive over his house and play the one with the alligators and then Pong and.
My aunt had one. I played the car one. I go over there. You could drive at night. Did you play Atari, Rob?
Yeah, I had Atari.
What game did you play?
My favorite was Sega Genesis, but the best game of all time, I'll argue with anybody about this, was GoldenEye on Nintendo 64.
I don't even know what that is.
James Bond, the man with the golden gun. If you got the golden gun, you would go over people's houses. So you'd be your house. You had Nintendo 64. We'd come to your house. He would come over. Now you can do that
Yeah, virtually.
virtually.
Yeah.
But we would go to people's houses and we'd have tournaments playing. And you got the golden gun. One shot killed the person.
I was Mortal Kombat and
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
and
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter, and then what was the one, the green one? It was like a fucking leprechaun, and you had to go all the fuck around everywhere. I don't know.
Oh, not really.
It was for Nintendo. No, I forget.
We used to go to arcades. You guys grew up going.
Yeah,
The batting cage.
Yeah.
Minigun. Like,
Yep,
there's
I
no
got
such thing
rolled.
as an arcade now.
No,
I watched Wreck-It Ralph with my daughters, and I'm like, the arcade. We used to do that. That was the
I
thing.
used to stand in line to play Street Fighter at the arcade.
Oh yeah, we used to compete at like a Blockbuster knockoff back in the day. The guy had Street Fighter, and we'd all take.
How about Blockbuster?
We used to stick nickels, and they would take the nickel, even though it was a quarter.
Blockbuster made a bad move. They couldn't have made a deal. They had a deal, I think.
Well,
I
They
forget
were
who it was.
Netflix. Well, they could have been Netflix, basically.
Yeah, didn't they have a choice to go
They
with
could have
Netflix?
been.
Or
they
something?
could have. All of them had. I
Yeah.
mean,
They
look at Borders. Jeff Bezos did work for Borders, and in that work, they didn't tell him that their information was proprietary. That's how he was able to sell books better than anyone. He had all the information from Borders
Oh, wow.
because he did like some tech project.
Yeah.
He got all the data. And then you knew what to sell online, and then Amazon was born.
I remember when he was coming up, and I was reading his life story. He had like $20 billion in the bank, and he was still driving a Toyota. I mean, now he's got a shipper. They got a. You see that? You know his ship.
I think he's making up for lost time.
Yeah, I think so too. Right? He's working out. He got rid of the wife. Hey, honey, you want $500 billion? Take it. This fucking guy's got a ship. Now, this is probably the only guy other than Elon and a couple. They actually take apart the fucking bridge.
Yeah,
to get it through.
He has to rebuild the bridge, right?
Every time he does it, he had to have.
They
this
did it
big-
one time, though. I'm assuming. Right?
He's done it 3 times already.
Are you serious?
Every fucking time he goes through it, they got to take it apart, and they take it apart.
Yeah, when you get that kind of money, do whatever you want,
Jesus.
Like you couldn't make it a little bit lower. Fuck.
or park it somewhere else.
It's probably 9,000
Leave-
gazillion feet
Leave
long.
the poor bridge alone.
What do you think his move is? Because you got Elon doing this, Apple's going to do something, Spotify's making their move, YouTube's at the top at the moment.
I'll tell you what's going to happen that no one sees. There's going to be companies you've never heard of that's going to start eating people's lunch.
You think so? Just
Yeah, with the blockchain, there's going to be stuff that's going to leapfrog everything. And if you're not on top of it, we think that these companies are going to last forever. Apple, I like Apple because of the affinity of like what Steve Jobs built. But when you have an operator running a company, it's different than a visionary.
Yeah.
You guys have dealt with operator.
Yes.
Just does what's consistent.
Right.
And makes profit, but there's no like looking around the corner. That's what a visionary does.
Right, because the iPhone, the only thing that's changed with the iPhone is it's gotten more of a screen.
Yeah,
which
bigger,
everybody
better,
else
whatever,
had,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But nothing cool. Like nothing where you're like, whoa, that's the new iPhone?
That's what an operator would do.
Right. That's what Steve Jobs would have probably done
Steve Jobs would be like, we don't even need a phone right
would've
now.
been
We
like-
should have it integrated in your clothing.
Like you said, rolling in his grave, he's probably doing backflips. And if he could see what the hell's out here, he'd be like, this is the same iPad that I already had out here when I died.
Well, and don't forget, guys like him inspired Elon. Guys like Elon now inspiring the next generation, and a lot of them are not profit driven. They're profit driven. Yes, they want to make money, but they want to make an impact, and that's going to change a lot of the things that we see and do. So things are going to change very rapidly. I don't know how ready people are, how fast they're going to happen, but it's going to be very. I'll just say this again: the infrastructure that's being laid out right now for the Web3 future. They have things called DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. On these DAOs, people have their own constitutions. So imagine if you and a group of friends created a DAO, you had your own set of rules, and then you guys started working on a project to do stuff. So it's reallocating labor and people.
I see what you're saying.
Doesn't matter where you live.
When you say it, I think of it like, oh, we're fucked. This is the end of the fucking world just slowly happening.
But it's everything's getting decentralized and then reorganized.
Right. Now, why is it Web 3 that you think is the one that's going to stick? Because they had Web 1, Web 2, now it's Web 3.
Well, it always changed. Like,
Well, what happened with Web 1 and Web 2?
Web 2 was like when WordPress and everything's dynamic and whatever. Web 3 now is not built on. It's a whole new infrastructure.
Web 2 is WordPress?
Yeah, like WordPress was the beginning of Web 2 because before that was HTML pages. And WordPress now, normal people could plug and play, and it was a lot easier. And then that was social media that came in all together. I just remember WordPress as Web 2 was coming. That was like a big innovation. I know for you as a coder, it sounds very simplistic. But before that, people were stuck with their HTML pages.
I was doing HTML too.
I know, but some guy owned their hosting.
Yeah.
And held it ransom.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was all pissed off. I remember this very well. And then WordPress solved that and created much more dynamical everything, searches. But as far as Web3, I mean, we're building an entire new infrastructure like in the sky. It's going to be incredible.
So if what I'm gathering from you think Web3 is the one because it's built based on blockchain, right?
Yeah, decentralized.
And because of that separates it from Web 2, Web 1, and being that it's built on the blockchain, that's likely to stick.
For now, I mean, like
until
Rob said, until the
thing.
next, there's always the next thing.
Yeah.
You can't, the one thing I learned, you can never say this is it, because the next thing always comes around and smacks the old thing.
Moore's Law, baby.
Yeah, so you can't, it's always an evolution. For me, this is probably going to be a really fun ride. But as things evolve and they get quicker,
you have to too.
You have to too, or you could decide, I'm done.
Yeah,
Let me go get my petting zoo and
Not
hang
you.
out in the farmhouse,
Well,
and you know,
It also too,
You'd
like
be bored out of your mind.
you think about
Probably.
You
think
need
about
that
the way
competition.
technology has moved with everything, right? 3D printers go through everything, right? In my opinion, and I don't know if you remember the guy running for president
Yang?
last time around, Yang. Yep. Remember his thing was, and people call him crazy. What do you mean you're going to give people $1,000 a month, or I don't remember.
The universal basic income.
Yeah, universal basic income. Be like, giving people stuff for free. But then when he broke it down, you really, if you just listened, he was basically saying there's going to be a lot of jobs that cease to exist. A lot.
Yep.
You've seen it now. Going to a grocery store, self-checkouts, they're getting rid of jobs there. McDonald's, places like that. We think we're always going to have truck drivers. We think we're always going to have construction workers. We probably won't. We're going to have machines that are going to build buildings. We're going to have, it's not out of the realm of possibility that that's what's going to happen.
There's an architect right now in Tampa. If you look up Abel Nook, he created, the mini tiny houses.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are like containers. It's not like anything new. It's like a container. He literally built a structure that has no screws, no nothing. And it literally just like anyone could just put it together in an hour and you have a house.
It just like snaps together.
Yeah, his vision is to be like the Apple.
Wow, look at this.
His vision is to be like the Apple, like what Steve Jobs did to the Apple to do for mini homes. What you're seeing there is literally he owns all the patents. There's a couple rivets, but there's no like screws, no nothing. And literally you stick it right there in the field, it's ready to rock. And it's hurricane proof because you drive it into the ground.
He's a genius. He's got Airbnb. Oh man, what a move!
So this innovation, what you're looking at,
what a fucking move.
This guy has not advertised anywhere, and people are calling all over the world buying this before he even has it ready.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Those are all like Lego pieces, and within a few hours you could assemble an entire house. And it's beautiful. It's the most amazing innovation.
And he's based on
That's the
Tampa.
future. You're looking at the future. Right
I know.
He's an architect.
Crazy.
He's been spending
In Tampa,
the last.
though, you said?
Yeah.
Wow.
In Ybor. Last couple of years during COVID, he's been ironing everything out. They tried to find someone to assemble it, but every part is so unique. They assemble it in house.
What a genius move! And this is what the future is going to be.
That's one. So think about what that does to housing. You could just place that anywhere, and you could live anywhere. Yeah.
Then they'll just nail you
And
for
small.
land permits.
Yeah, probably.
Right? You know what I mean?
You still got to deal with the local government, right?
Then they'll have a instead of a property tax, it'll be like a snap together tax. Some bullshit.
That's wild.
That is so fucking cool.
It's the most
I can't stop
beautiful
looking
thing.
at
And the
it.
way he has the arch, well, because you like design.
Yeah.
The way he has the arch when you walk in, it feels very roomy. Like he's really specific about the design and how it all works. He's an amazing
2
human
people,
being.
2 hours, no tools.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's got orders coming out to Yin Yang. So most of the people doing like containers. This guy's like, let me do a real thing, what people want. Tiny houses, but a whole, like a Frank Lloyd Wright, something out of, the future, and let's make it.
That just knocked my head off.
yeah, man,
my jaw just hit my leg.
Even with 3D printers and all that. I mean,
Well, that's the cool part. All the new, because of all that, he could do that. And another buddy of mine owns a 3D printing, Roy Kirshner in the Tampa Bay area. He's one of the fastest growing companies.
Isn't that built on blockchain?
There's a lot that
Part of it is, right?
yes, because they have the codes for what you want to print.
Yeah.
A lot of it's on like there's like codes. You just put it in, the printer just shoots it out.
Oh, it's on. A lot of this shit's on blockchain. I can see it in there.
Well, it's
a
all
lot.
transferring.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's just
Look,
the
he can't stop watching.
Alexa calls it the
Like he can't stop watching it either.
the Alexa apps. They call it the data lake. So like, what is that? That's where all the data goes. My buddy creates a lot of that off for the data lake.
it'll just be interesting, like as time goes on with anything, over the years, my parents, my grandparents, stuff that they can't imagine. There'll always be a job. There'll always be a coal miner. There'll always be this. When I'm 60 or 70 or hopefully 80, however long I live till, what I'll be like, I remember when we used to have people that used to serve us food.
Yeah, us three would be hanging out
Oh,
with
that's
their
definitely that's definitely next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because that's a computer's job, right?
Because really, you could put, like those glasses on, sit with your wife. You guys are at dinner. beautiful table. There's a waiter that comes by. You know, I mean,
We-
Well, and your tables will be technology. You'll have something holograms.
yeah,
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, we used to go to basketball games. Nope, watching it from our house now.
yeah.
Well, when you see some of the screens people have, why would you want to go to a game?
Yeah.
Like it's like bowed and they set up the theater. It's much more comfortable.
You don't have to park.
Yeah, a lot of them have their own little candy, bar or whatever you want, popcorn. Yeah, no parking. It's pretty nice.
Now, what do you think AI like this does to the economy?
Well, it opens up new doors, but like you said, all the old stuff, like you gotta be ready because it's not gonna wait for you. Like the weird thing about social media, I remember when it came out, no one understood it, even though it was so simple, it's just like a marketing thing. And people are like, well, should we use that for our business? It's like, well, there's like 50 million people. Don't you think you should be out there in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
You could swing a dead cat. Someone was gonna like click on it, right? I remember using Facebook ads, and I couldn't spend the money because no one knew you're supposed to click on the right that early. The challenge with AI is you get it when you could replace 10 jobs and it saves you.
Yeah, a gazillion.
Yeah, if you're a business guy, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this thing will cost you $100,000, but it's going to save you $500,000 and no workers' comp. No one's going to sue you, and it'll do everything perfectly. There's no explanation there. So, like, I try and explain to people, like,
Yeah.
that COO or CFO, they're like, where do I sign? So
Yeah, because I mean, you have to put it in perspective from a business point of view. That machine is going to last, and you don't have to worry about the machine being late. You don't have to worry, all it
complaints
breaks
from
down.
customers.
You call the customer service, it probably fixes it fucking self. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you hire probably an IT firm, the 24/7 they monitor, right? So that you already have the
and,
IT service.
and the IT guy's a robot coming in to fix
More
it.
than likely, it is.
Yeah.
So it's fixed instantly. So
Unbelievable.
that's the future, and it's going to be a very interesting as it all develops, because I always think about it from the little ones. My kids. I'm like, I don't think they'll ever need to know how to drive. They did away with stick shift cars. No one's making them anymore.
Yeah.
So they're going to look at us like, what do you mean you had to drive? You didn't just sit in the car and do your work? Why'd you have to get in the car? Why? Where are we going?
Yeah, well-
Don't you have the hoverboard or whatever that took you over?
Tommy still reads that thing called a newspaper. I don't even know what the hell a newspaper
Yeah.
is. What the hell's a newspaper?
I like paper newspaper.
Well, when I was a kid, right? If
Yeah.
you said to me, I'm going to the coffee shop, it wasn't a coffee house. It was like you see a lunch counter,
Yep.
guys sitting at the lunch counter, reading the paper, getting ready to go catch the train to go into the city. Now, a coffee shop does not mean that. It's a Starbucks or
with Wi-Fi
100 other
and
independents. You go
17
work at the
computers.
coffee shop.
Yeah, it's like a place of work for free if you just buy a drink every hour for $3.99. That's probably why they charge $8 for a cup of coffee.
It's a different world. Yeah, and then the coffee, I don't know, someone gave me a gift card. I went to go get coffee for my wife, and I got something. I said, she goes, yeah, it's like $24.90. I was like, did you make a mistake? I only ordered 2 drinks. That's what it is.
Crazy.
So I realize now I'm becoming like when I was a kid and they were complaining about pizza being over $1 a slice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now it's
pizza-
$5 a slice.
Yeah, now we're all complaining. You go to
It's
the gas.
funny how
Like, you never think
things
that we
happen.
would bitch about like gas or anything
It's
else.
all the same.
It's all the same. It's
same.
just everything revolves. It just all repeats until it no longer repeats, and then something else comes, and that goes all the way back from the beginning of.
I mean, think how
Whenever the
expensive. Like
beginning.
it looks. I guess it is what it is. If you're a kid growing, like, what do you know? This is what the price is, right?
Yeah, you have no.
We know the difference. They don't.
Yeah, because like when our parents talk about, like I could get a paper for a nickel. So I used to say, what the fuck can I get
or
for a
they'd say,
nickel?
we didn't have to arcades. We would play in the street for free with the stick
Yeah.
and a ball.
Yeah.
You'd hear that the old
And I'd be like, no, I want to go play the fucking game.
The only thing that's interesting though is some things come back around, right? Like I don't know if you've noticed, but like fanny packs are coming back.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
That is
Like,
weird.
and I was
huh?
like, what? The fanny pack's coming back in houses now. Remember, wallpaper was so 1970, right? 1980. Wallpaper's coming back. Different. So
No, 100%.
Wallpaper then, but it's coming back. So it's just weird to see how.
You know what's interesting with like cell phones? My wife was telling me she's got like whatever, some kind of yoga pants, and she goes, "Oh, I love these pants." She goes, "All the women do." I go, "Why?" She goes, "They put a pocket so we could put our phone in." I go, "And they didn't have that before?" She goes, "No. Up until a couple of years ago, you couldn't find something." I'm like, "Are you serious?" I'm thinking like, of course you need something. Everybody's got a cell phone and they want to listen. She's like, "No, these were one of the first pants to have a pocket for women to put the phone in." I'm
But
like,
now they could put their AirPods in and
All
have
that,
their
yeah,
phone
yeah,
in
yeah,
the shit.
yeah. But it's just so
what
funny,
we need.
little innovations on
Yeah.
everything, you know?
Yeah, and fast too. So fast. Now, in 2017, you came out with a film, right? And it was called Messenger.
Yeah, yes.
Now, what was the... I know you realized that podcasting was really taking off. But what was the kicker, the real kicker that made you do that documentary?
So this is actually, I'm glad you're asking this because this brings us to this conversation. In 2013, people kept asking me, what is a podcast and how much does it cost? Okay.
Right.
So I'm teaching very fundamental, like open up your phone. You see that thing? That's your pod. You already have it on there. So then people would say, I would say, oh, my wife's a podcaster. What is that? I go, they talk on the microphone, like radio? I don't understand. So I understood visually they didn't understand because in the early days of podcasting, there wasn't a lot of video. It was all audio. Rogan was a standout. Very few. A couple celebrities did what you're doing here. So then I said to a friend of mine, I said, if I could get some money together and we crowdfund it, would you help me make a movie to show people what this thing podcasting is? Because no one had made a documentary around it. And I was like, I think we could be the ones that did it. And we created the first documentary on the world of podcasting. We launched it through Amazon. We got distribution out of LA. And people would start sending us letters and emails and just thanking us because, like, now my dad understands what I do. So it was seen as legitimate. And we knew that in the growth of the industry, we needed a visual component. And going back to my video roots, I was like, I think we could make it. We funded 120% of goal. But in that film, if you watch it, one guy talks about we're going to have subscriptions. We're going to have seasons. All those things were predicted in the film. A few years later, they all became standard.
And see, now that goes all the way back to the beginning of the conversation about conspiracy theories, right? So in 2017, people probably thought, this is conspiracy.
2017, they thought listen, I had one friend tell me, he was a great guy. I love him, but I remember he telling me, podcasting's for broke people. No one will listen to a podcast. What do you think you're doing? And I was like, all right, that's a difference of opinion.
Right. But my circle back is, see, if you don't allow people to talk and shoot out conspiracy theories that might be fucking nuts, completely insane, then you don't have what we have today. You have to let those conspiracies come out, you know?
I say, I never, because I was raised,
I don't look at it as a conspiracy.
But I was raised in public access. I didn't mind having very diverse opinions. And I remember we would have some preachers, and the stuff they were saying was it was pretty unique. You know, the stuff that you're like, wow, I can't believe he's saying that on the show. And it's like, all right, that's cool. And then you had the two kids that would smoke pot in the car. Then they would have all kinds of, they were great. They were just riffing on you know. And then you had the one mom with their daughter, and it never bothered me. I guess,
but it never bothered anybody then. It's just,
I think society just decided that we had there was a guy by the name of Bill Keller. The censorship started. I could tell you this was before Alex Jones, because that's the famous case where everybody band together. And I remember there was an old timer that was like, "Hey guys, this is not good." And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's a little crazy. Let's get him off." He's like, "They're gonna come for you next," and they're like, "Oh, you're crazy." And he was right. He called it. But I remember before that in Tampa there was a preacher. His name was Bill Keller. And Bill Keller had live prayer, and he would spend $250,000 a year. He would buy all the midnight to 1 or 11 to midnight on CBS, Monday through Friday. He owned it.
Damn.
So he got on there and he started saying he's Christian. So he went off on Muhammad and Islam and really way off. But it wasn't it was off in that, you know, from a Christian perspective, he wasn't down with that, right? So then the Council of Arab-Islamic Relations called up CBS in Tampa. They didn't do anything. Then they called up Manhattan, and they got him thrown off the air, and they gave him his money back. That was one of the first big cases. Now, this is what I remember. During the Bleepin' Truth, the CNN had Ahmed Badir, who represented CARE at the time, and they were like, we can't have them in the room. It's too dangerous, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I'm watching this. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? A week later on Public Access, had them both next to each other on the table debating. And I put someone in the middle. And that's when I realized, you got to be careful what they're saying, because it couldn't be further from the truth. Instead, they're creating theater and they're starting to create stuff. So it's just interesting. But Bill back then told me, he goes, you got to own your own content. This was in, I would like to say 2008. This is early.
So 8 was pretty much, you would say, when the censoring started to
maybe 09
kick in.
That was one I remember. That was a big national case. All I'm saying is, even before that, there's always been seeds, but then it ran rampant with, I think Alex Jones was the canary in the coal mine of where things started really
And then he does what is his info wars now.
I don't even know what he does. I don't know if he has a website, but that's the problem now. What if he's doing stuff you don't even know what's going on? Because now he's got it all probably anonymized.
Yeah, I think it's info wars because Roger Stone was in a few times and he goes over to his show, I guess whenever Alex wants him to, I guess. But he made a shit ton of money, so he's able to buy his own bandwidth that he could push it.
Yeah,
to
he had a huge
millions
audience.
and millions of people. I mean, you need fucking bandwidth for that. Especially if you're doing 3 hours to shoot it. Holy fuck.
Have you ever been on a show like that?
No.
So I'll tell you this much. So on Public Access, the preacher I was telling you about, he was really kind to me. He goes, Chris, I'd love to have you on my religious show. I go, it's not, but he goes, please, I want to introduce your thing. And when you're doing shows, it's like someone that's in the media, like, okay, but I go, don't ask me too many religious, I grew up Greek Orthodox, so everything was in ancient Greek, right? So I go there, and he has me on for like a 5-minute segment. I get home, and I get these emails like this long. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And they thought it was him. And you realize, like, some of these, you don't realize how rabid some audiences are. Because, like, with the Bleep of Truth, we get some emails here and there. This guy got a full page, and my email was only up for like 10 seconds. And this person threw out a whole thing. And I said to him, how many emails are you getting? He goes, thousands a day. And I used to not believe it until, like, he put my email, they mistaked it for his, and I got a book in the thing. Please pray for me. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, how do you handle this? He goes, I just go. He had an assistant. They would just go through. And I think he's built a huge online ministry still.
Now, when you saw that, did that kind of kick like, wow, like distribution is serious shit?
Yeah, you realize that not each influencer is created differently, and some people have such a rabid audience you don't even realize the layers to it. Some people have audiences that will, his audience was salvation, so this person needed them to pray for him, but you just realize there's different audiences and different levels to the game. I mean, look at Rogan, look at Dave Portnoy with Barstool.
Yeah.
If you attack him online, his audience, they adopt his persona. They're going to come.
Yeah, he's got a loyal following.
Yeah, so that kind of following is that's like Howard Stern.
Yeah. What do you think made Rogan so big? I actually went and I started watching some of his real old ones, like 101, 102. Do you ever see any of the older ones, Rob?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, man.
He's kind of like in his basement with,
Brian... Red Band?
Red Band, yeah, with Red Band. It's funny. Red Band's like looking up games. Rogan's like, no, look up this. Red Band's a funny dude.
So Rogan started with Ustream, and he never stopped. And, he did the podcast and everything. I think what made him really good is he started realizing, like, people are watching this. Let me do a little. He does research. He reads books. And the people he interviews, there is a system behind him. So I know it looks like it's just him and Jamie. But there are handlers and there's people that will comb through. Like, you have to realize at this point in the game now, when he transitioned over from that time, which was more of a comedy show and just riffing and they're high, to let me take this serious and start interviewing really interesting people like the pyramids and archaeologists. He started interviewing all these people. He now is at the level where everybody in the world wants to be on his show, and they will prep hours before they show up there. That being said, he's a phenomenal interviewer. He's present, and he's listening, and he's reacting for 2-3 hours at a time. So he's at the top of his game. He's very competitive, and he's very special, and he never stopped. Adam Carolla was much bigger in the early days.
God,
Yeah, that's who he calls the GOAT, right? I think Adam Carolla.
Adam Curry.
Curry? Which one's the gray hair guy? He has a little bit of he kind of blinks a little funny. He's a great guy.
He was one of the first MTV VJs.
Yeah.
And he's known as the Podfather because he developed podcasting.
Yeah.
But Adam Carolla was a contemporary, I would say, with Rogan. He had a much bigger show early.
Yeah.
But you could tell when Rogan got in the pocket, I always said, I wish I could buy stock. Like, if you could bet on like what's going to hit, you could see it a mile away. He was going to be the biggest show out there.
Now, what did you see that made you think that?
Just the content was, he had the best people in the world, the best comedians. He had the relationships. First off, he had the best comedians in the world. That's one.
Because he was a comedian, so he already had.
Well, they weren't pulling punches, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But while other people are worried about what they're saying, he's got Joey Diaz, and they're talking about stuff.
Joey Diaz was fun. I'm trying to get him.
Well, and then he helped build all those guys have so he helped everybody. He's the thing that he's very unique is he also helps use his star power to help everybody around him build. So when they came after him, on
the racist thing.
Yeah,
That was
hundreds,
ridiculous.
maybe even 1,000 people that were on his show, from scientists to comedians, all came to his defense.
Well,
That's very rare.
It was bullshit. They cut up over 12 years when he's sitting with another African American, and they're just having a conversation, having fun, and they cut it up to make it look bad because he was coming out with the truth, with the big pharma shit.
Yeah.
Else,
It was the two doctors he interviewed in December.
Malone and McConnell, right? I can never say. Yeah, McConnell and Dr. Malone. Malone was the big one because he was the one who invented
not
the fucking
McConnell,
thing.
but it's you're very close.
Was it MCC?
You just messed it up in my head.
Not
McCullough either.
We have to think of this. McConnell.
It's
we have to beat him too. We have to
definitely
beat
Malone,
Google.
but it's
Elon, send us that Neuralink. If we had that Neuralink in our head, we'd be good.
He had the.
How far do you think we're away from the Neuralink getting shot in our head?
That would be amazing. I'm just thinking for Parkinson's and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know that they're going to let him. It's approved for 2024. Like certain case studies for paraplegics. Do you know why they're letting him do paraplegics?
No.
Well, what can Big Pharma do for a paraplegic?
Makes sense.
Can't make any money.
Where the
You're
big
done at
money
that
is
point.
Parkinson's, any neurological, which is Well,
Well,
everybody's on pills. My dad's got Parkinson's. So yeah.
So right. So now he has that Neuralink to correct that.
Is it Peter McCullough?
Peter McCall. That's who we're thinking of.
Is that what you said?
I said McCullough.
I think you
or McConnell.
McCullough.
That's who I'm talking about. Yeah, McCullough.
But those interviews got 30, 40 million each.
Streams.
Think about that.
30, 40
It's like people all over the world.
Do you know how?
And there's probably more now. It's probably 50 a piece.
As you know, if you take 40 million streams on Spotify, that's like 80 million views on YouTube.
Oh, easily.
If not more, right? In comparison.
No, let's take it a step further. So when they would say, let's say Oprah had, I don't know, 10 or 20 million people, she's on one of like 10 channels on the main feed that you're clicking on, right? This guy, you got to go find him.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to go to Spotify and you got to hit to listen.
And you have to sign up.
Yeah, it's an astronomical
You have to fucking
number.
sign up.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. When he made that move, I was like, I don't know. Because, he's making a killing, 100,000 a week, I think, with YouTube, or 100,000 a month, something like that. Something pretty crazy.
He was making good ad revenue, yep.
When the ads, not from YouTube.
No, he wasn't monetizing at that time.
Yeah, he was keeping them unlisted. But then I was like, man, you're making that move. I understand 100 million. That means 200, 250 million. You got to sign up. Whew, I don't know, but
if you think
if
Howard Stern is worth whatever, I would say Rogan's worth 2 to 3x more.
Right now?
Oh yeah.
Well, right now they're about the same.
I know.
Yeah, but
I'm saying if Rogan was to renegotiate today, let's just say he's on the market.
Yeah.
Whatever he got, even though I think he got a lot more than 100 million, but whatever he got, he would be getting 2 to 3 times more. Because at the time, remember, no one had ever done a deal like that. Since then, if you look at DraftKings and how much McAfee just got recently.
Oh yeah, Pat McAfee.
I love
him.
Do you know how he got
Yeah, he got a lot.
To the point where Barstool was Dave Portnoy was not happy because that was money out of his mouth because
how much did
the best about Pat McAfee is like a punter, that played in the NFL, a punter.
Well, Rob, what did he get? He got was it 75 or 125
I can look it up.
million?
Yeah, can you look up and see what the fuck?
And then he was just on WrestleMania, like he's wrestling.
He just got a lot of energy, but he got a 9-figure deal as well.
Good for him. Good for him.
But the betting lines are spending a lot of money for the sports shows.
God, yeah. I know.
So the next level of influence. So you have to realize the attention is the game, and these influencers. We're gonna have, if Mr. Beast isn't the first billionaire already, you're gonna have a bunch of them.
30 million per year.
Yeah. So and it was a multi-year deal. So I mean, think about that for a sports show.
And what a punt!
And you never heard of him, right?
Never heard.
And it's a very rabid audience.
Average punter gets paid what, like $1 million maybe in the NFL.
He's making more.
What's the league minimum? 600,000.
He's making more in one fucking year doing
Correct.
that than he did in his whole year.
Well, and he did good. He took care of his team. He had a whole nice video. So that he spread the money around too.
He is the same, like Tommy. You know who David Portnoy is. They have like a similar character. Like they're just the way they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pat McAfee punter. Yeah, I like listening.
Right, he was one of the better punters too.
Yeah.
He had some
Yeah.
energy. But yeah, so that's what's coming down the pike. So you're talking about huge deals being synced. So, I mean, CNN Plus didn't last more than a month. Or
How about
what-
that? They spent $300 million for
Up to
2 weeks.
300
Are they
million.
crazy? Now, Chris and Rob, both you media guys,
Go ahead.
why $300 million and in the last 2 weeks?
Well, you're looking at from your perspective. Let's say you're inside of CNN.
That's why I'm asking you guys.
Yeah,
No,
you're
it's not me.
you're working in the hallways. Everybody's talking about you. You feel really good. You're in a brand. You own the city of Atlanta because you go there as all Turner or CNN. Everybody's nice to you everywhere you go. You think it's a good play. People gonna want this. And I know you're looking from the comment guys like, who's gonna buy this? But from their perspective, like, oh yeah, we're gonna get.
No,
if
I can
everybody else
see
is
it.
getting
I can
millions.
see it. Yeah, I can see it because they're like,
But they
look,
needed some outside counsel, or maybe they should have done some testing, because I don't know if they
Maybe
got
some-
more than 10 or 16,000. It was very, for 300 million.
As far as I saw it, it didn't go over 20,000.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty.
That's pretty.
I mean, think about it. There's YouTubers that could do that in a heartbeat.
But I always said I think that's the problem with media nowadays and coming from a television industry and a background. When you work in that industry, you have like a one-track mind almost. You don't, not me, people that were in that industry at higher positions didn't listen to outside. They knew everything, and it was this is how it is, and this is how it's always been. And they never listened to the innovations coming. Like TV news, no one watches anymore. No one sits down at 5 o'clock around the table to watch the news. It's all on your phone. You get your information. You do that.
So you're right. I remember people used to, when I was a kid, you ate dinner, the news was on. And I remember my firefighter neighbor, that's what he watched. That's what informed him every day. He's like, shh, let me see what's going on.
Yeah, and you couldn't talk to them.
They would shush when the numbers came up because if
Yeah,
you played the
that
if
fucking
you played
lotto,
the
motherfuckers.
lotto,
Yeah,
I
and they'd
remember,
always
like,
wait till the end.
show that, yeah.
And the numbers are remember at the end,
Yep.
and you see the ball,
Yep.
and when we were kids, you get one, and that fucking ball would take for like it'd be like, dude, just pop it out of the thing.
But the news,
I always thought it was
the
all
news
rigged.
should look at it in terms of how, how can we reach people now? And it's through podcasts. It's through that atmosphere, and it's the bad stuff. People still like gore and blood and hear about that type of stuff. But how do I reach an audience? It's not a sitting in front of a camera per se, blasting it on the television.
Yeah,
It's-
reading some
It's
script.
through
Right?
a YouTube. It's through a podcast. That's how they change. But they're stubborn. A lot. Not
Well-
all of them. Not all of them.
No, and I'll agree with you, Rob. I would talk to a lot of when I go into the different TV stations. I've made friends over the years, and they'd whisper to me, "Hey, I'm trying to get into podcasts." I'm like, "Great, what are you going to talk about?" And they're like, "Oh, a little bit of everything." I'm like, "You better have a plan if you want to grab a show." And like you said, they don't know because they never left that cocoon. It's like, no, what's your specialty? Oh, I go, you're competing with like everybody. It's not like you're not force-fed through the tubes here on someone's cable channel.
With the gazillion dollars pushing you.
With
You know.
gazillion, yeah, like in Tampa, we got Bay News 9. It's preset on anyone that has Spectrum because it's
My buddy works at Bay News 9.
yeah, so it's fed into the cable subscribers. So what they don't realize is like, especially a lot of the older people, they turn on the TV, it's there, they just leave it there, right?
Yeah.
Younger people, like you said, they don't even know what Bay News 9 is.
You know somebody who works there?
Yeah, I have a friend that works at Bay News 9.
Oh yeah. See, my dad's out there in Spectrum, and I think Verizon.
But every town has that, and
Well, no, here
but-
you can't get Spectrum.
Oh, really?
I mean, unless you go on like Apple TV or something like that. But I mean, generally, if you just have somebody come to your house, here it's AT&T and Xfinity.
But the news also use like, I know they're doing it now a lot. Is like you'll have, and they had it years ago. You'll have your crime reporter that they only cover crime.
Right.
You have your educational reporter. They only cover stories in education. But how can I morph that? You can have your own show podcast based on education.
Yeah, so
You
that's a
talk
niche.
to
That's a
people.
niche. Yeah, I've tried to explain that to some of them. Like, take that segment,
Yeah.
and that's a show, but it's tough for them to understand
And
because they're part of a whole
Like that
thing.
thing. It's like just take that one.
Yeah, and they're like, "What do you mean, just
the
the one segment?" I'm like, yeah, because that's what that one person wants. They don't care about the whole thing.
and bring in investigators.
Yeah.
Talk
That's
about
right.
past murder.
Especially
Talk
that
about-
would
Oh my
anything
God.
with horror, people love that.
Yeah, like look how long Forensic Files lasted for until the voice guy passed away.
Robert Stack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
was
can't,
iconic,
you can't
yeah.
bring that voice back.
You know that true crime is
that's number one, right?
well, it's huge. The audience is mainly female.
What? Oh yeah,
Men
channel. Oh,
men
fucking
don't
Christ. Don't get me started.
Men
on
don't
ID
listen
channel.
for the most part with true crime.
I'm never gonna go home if you keep talking about this ID.
If you look at the demo, we have a friend of mine. She has crime scene cleaning. It's a YouTube channel, and that's all she does. She films crime scenes, and she has a company that cleans them in Florida. You know, so I think she's almost at 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And I remember we were doing some strategy. The majority is women because men don't really like looking at blood and gore. It's not their bag.
No,
there might
I
be
don't like
some,
that shit.
but it's a heavy female audience.
You know what's odd? The very first sponsor I got, he said, "What category are you?" And I said, "Entertainment." And he goes, "No, you're true crime." I said, "Okay." If that, it was the first one.
Oh yeah, right.
Because the true crime
Yeah,
was what
yeah,
they
yeah.
wanted. They wanted it labeled under
Got
true
it.
crime. And, I had true crime people in, but it was
course.
all kinds of shit. But that's what they wanted. They wanted it to be true crime.
So
And then when I add that together and I say, okay, if I'm labeled as true crime and I come up in the algorithm as true crime, that would broaden the audience because now more women are going to come in
Right.
versus like an 80-20 audience,
sure.
which is most of the time anyway.
yeah.
But,
Yeah, true crime. That's it's interesting that's smart from a perspective. It just you have to deliver on the promise and then veer off when you can.
So, Chris, I was going to ask you this question. So, if somebody, let's just say, making this up, sells gumball machines for a living, just making this totally up, and let's say they have a good personality, it's an interesting story how they sell gumball machines or anything like that, and they're struggling to get by, would you say to them, like, hey, listen, have you ever thought of doing a show on gumball machines, a podcast? And that's totally random. I don't know why gumball machine came into my head. But a hairstylist, a hairdresser, come up with a podcast based on Tales in the Chair or anything like that.
Those niches that you're talking about, those are the ones that hit where the people are just messing around and they become huge hits. Obviously, you need the right creator.
Mm-hmm.
We had one friend that he was good at creating his own stories, and he would read them to people, like his girlfriends, and they'd fall asleep. And he created a podcast called Sleep With Me, and it's a story that has a middle but really no ending, and you fall asleep because it doesn't go anywhere. So he created a whole new category as sleep stories. There's one individual, a young guy, and he has thousands of people that support him via Patreon, and he's one of the largest sleep podcasts in the world. And you would never even think about something like that. And he started because he goes, I think I could help people because I like writing these boring stories, purposefully boring, not like that shut off the brain and put people to sleep. And I found out about him because I had a relative that started listening, and he got off his meds and he was able to sleep, and he supported him. So then I cold called him, and now he's been coming to Podfest, and he's just been a phenomenal human being. But he created a category that never existed before. If you look up sleep stories, there's dozens of those kinds of shows now.
But he was the one who created it.
I believe he's the pioneer. Yeah. I don't think anyone did that before because he put it on podcasts.
And that's what's so cool about podcasting, because everything that we're talking about, it all circles back around to kind of podcasting in a way.
Oh,
because that's how you get it all out, right?
Have you guys seen Guga Foods? Guga, Guga?
No.
So you know how in the Brazilian, it's on YouTube. You know in the Brazilian steakhouses they love their meats.
Chris, let me ask you this, because I can't even figure it out in the portal. How long can you actually play YouTube on YouTube? So like,
I don't know, because sometimes it plays on forever, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Are you premium or just regular?
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, because if you're not, you have.
I don't pay. I don't pay. Like I don't have ads and shit.
So this guy, he is like one of those Brazilian guys that likes the meats. So he started cooking the meats. Click on his channel just so you could, don't click on the video, but click on the channel to see how big he's gotten. How many subscribers?
I think 30 seconds. He's got, right there, he's got 500,000.
3.38 million. This one guy, so listen to this. Go
over to about, Rob.
Yeah, that's what I always check. Under got it.
Over to right. All the way.
It's right underneath got it. That's why you can't see it.
Left.
Under here?
Yep.
Yeah, right underneath it. There you go.
15.
Half a billion views almost.
And sorry, so what does he do with this?
So this guy, it's very similar to what you're saying. He wanted to show how to cook a steak. He has a certain grill he uses, so he started affiliate selling whatever he was using to make the steak. But literally, he was just like, oh, I'm gonna cook it this way, and I'm gonna try different grades of steak. he's become the #1 channel for steaks.
Three
And he's
point-
here. He's just south of here.
I'm telling you.
3.3?
He's down in Miami.
You know, I'm not gonna.
That's cool.
I'm not gonna say it on here, but you know where my brain's
I-
going.
So here's
And
the part that these guys don't tell you because, they don't want to tell everything. But if you have 3.3 million subscribers, even though he looks like your neighborhood guy, he's making millions of dollars. And then he hooked up with Cheney Brothers, which is a food
Oh, yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I know.
Right here.
Yeah.
They're right here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they have a high-end meat division. I forgot the name. It's one of his sponsors. So I'm watching these things. I'm like, hey, let me call up and try these steaks. And they're very expensive steaks. And I said to the guy, do you know how I found you? He goes, Guga. I go, how'd you know? He goes, everybody call. So this guy becomes the #1 driver of traffic to them. What is that worth?
Wow.
I have a friend that's a golf. He tries out golf products. Do you play golf at all?
I've tried a million times.
Okay, I don't. But
I'm terrible. I've
so
tried.
I'm a great producer for him because I don't care. I'm just like,
I spent money on
I
clubs
follow
that
the-
I don't fucking use.
well, he reviewed some product last year. It's a Let's Play Through. Check out Let's Play Through. This is another one. This is it for anyone that's looking to get into what we're talking about. The best YouTubers I found start somewhere and then they pivot. And once they find their lane, YouTuber or podcaster, they hit it hard. So my buddy Gabe, he's got 33,000 subscribers. So if you look at his first shows, he was spending tons of money. We were traveling to the best golf courses. It was amazing. And then someone said, hey, can you review this watch? We'll give you access to Greg Norman, the golfer. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, because I traveled to this place in Dubai and he did something with the course and I could B-roll it. They go, but you have to put out this review for this Garmin watch. He's like, yeah, no problem. So he throws out the review. All these beautiful videos. I mean, they were really good, high quality. They were getting 300 views, 400, 500. He throws out the watch thing, 60,000
Boom.
reviews. So then some other YouTuber goes, he needs to do reviews. I go, how do you know? He goes, look at the numbers. So then he's one of the top golf reviewers in the world for products. And he's only started like 2.5 years. That the R10, you see that thing, R10?
Yep, R10, yeah.
He sold well over like $1 million worth of that for one of his sponsors.
257,000 views.
Well, he has like 4 or 5 videos with the R10. I mean, one guy. So that's what I'm saying. If you find the right guy and you're the right business relationship and you tie your sales together, it's magic
You
for
can make it-
everybody.
yeah.
This
and
guy could do his thing. You could sell your products, and everybody does what they do best.
What I've seen in my short time is guys find their lane and then they'll read comments or something, and then they switch because they think, but if they would have stayed in that lane,
Yeah, you
they
got
would've
to, once
crushed
you're
it.
in the pocket and you're doing good.
You gotta-
Yeah.
Stop. Don't read the comments. I fucking hate the comments. I turn them off.
The comments are tough.
I want to turn them off.
Comments are tough.
Doesn't do anything anyway. Doesn't affect the algorithm.
You should see what the women get the roughest comments.
Do they?
Oh,
I can only
if you
imagine.
think your comments
Yeah.
are rough.
Yeah. No, they're not too bad.
No, but there's like, because they're getting judged on their visuals. It's really rough.
the problem is with the comments, if you don't hold them and then you go like A-list, B-list people, they have endorsement agents. They're not trying to walk into any type of fire because they could possibly lose a massive
Interesting,
endorsement over. So say me and you have this interview and there's 500 comments, right? But there's 20 that you're an asshole, you're a dick, you're
Right.
that, right? Now, an A or B lister wants to come in, and their endorsement agent, he's going to look and see what's going on, and he sees that, 3 videos ago there was 20 comments.
Interesting. I didn't know
negative.
that.
Well, I've had that problem. That's why I'm bringing this
Oh,
up.
and then what happens?
They say, we'll call you back in 60 days. So 3 agents, the main agent, yeah. The assistant agent, yeah. The booking agent, yeah. Then the endorsement agent, he looks, no. Call us back in 60 days. So
Wow.
that's when I started holding comments.
Do they bring people in with them while you're interviewing them?
Yeah. Those kind of people.
That's got to be odd, right?
Not all the
Go
time.
ahead. Nah.
No, because Willie didn't. No.
No.
Only
Some people
only
are
a
cool, and
couple.
then, yeah.
Only a couple. But the comments can fuck you with the endorsements. I turn them off, but, people like to bicker back and forth. But then you go over and you look at Spotify, there's no comments there.
Yeah, that's interesting that I wonder if they're ever going to do that. Yeah, there's none.
None.
There's no community side. It's really
They
just.
will. I think they will eventually move to that.
Yeah, I think so, because with Twitter and everything, you got to create some kind. Yeah.
Because I would have shut it off the first time I had that issue, I would have shut it off. But I think as far like Spotify, it wouldn't affect me, right? Or Apple or something
Sure.
like that. But because YouTube, it's been there and it's there, people want to engage, and then they'll come back to see what if somebody replied and so on.
If
and
I'm
so
watching a video, I go to the comments before the video even starts.
Dude, I have
Yeah,
probably
because I'm like a YouTube power user, so you want to know, is it worth my time? So the comment section of YouTube is very viral. And then if someone sucks you in, you're like, you know, you start. I don't get into it.
I guess I'm gonna have to keep fucking going. I'm just joking.
Well, no, but it's just that's one of the things that people love about.
Yeah.
So when Rogan went to Spotify, a lot of his biggest fans were like, "Where do I comment?" Because they would talk to each other. They were creating relationships in the comments. You know, he would get 10,000 comments on a video.
That was brought up, and he said, well, when he made the deal with Spotify, he said, look, I'll make the deal, but I want to be able to put clips on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I guess that was maybe his way of keeping some type of comments going back and forth.
That's smart too.
And
Because
also
if something's
drawing
good,
in.
it goes in. Yeah, very.
And then it's still under the original Joe Rogan YouTube, right? So if you check it, still a gazillion subscribers, you get the clip, and then it shoots you over to Spotify.
And I just look at it too, like from the perspective with podcasts and with YouTube and all that type of stuff. Like my kids, I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. They don't watch TV. Everything they say is
YouTube, right?
YouTube.
Yeah.
I saw it on YouTube. My favorite YouTuber. Jake Paul and the Paul brothers. You can like them, hate them, whatever you do.
Logan Paul's got a great podcast.
They did it.
Yeah.
Mr. Beast burgers and all this stuff.
I didn't even know who Mr. Beast was. I saw him on Rogan, and I said, holy shit. And when he was saying the numbers that he was getting, I was like, no way. And I went and looked. Bro.
Yeah, no, Mr. Beast is an aberration. That guy's like amazing.
I mean, he's the biggest. He's the biggest on YouTube, right?
Yeah, if you aggregate all his subscribers, I think he has over 200 million for all his channels.
And he gets 200 and something million views.
Yeah.
Well, and then he translates them in different languages. That's his profit money.
Does anybody else get 200 million views? We thought when Rogan got 24 million, that was insane.
He's an aberration. He's like Neo, in the Matrix. He's like the guy that just figures it all out.
Yeah.
Because every kid knows who he is. They know his posse. Like his wing people are more famous than A-list people, not to mention him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just never understood it. They'd be like, my son would be like, oh, there's a Mr. Beast burger pop up here. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Oh yeah,
Mr.
and
Beast
he's
burger?
You know what he's
expanding
talking
with it.
about, right?
Yeah. He's expanding his name
I don't know how he did it, but literally overnight, this guy had burger joints all over America.
all over.
But they leave, like they disappear, like they come.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So basically,
They like licensed it out.
So basically, what I think happens, and I still can't figure it out. I think
There's one in Tampa. I just haven't gone to.
I think what they do is they'll use, like, let's say you have a restaurant. They'll use your kitchen or part of something.
Okay, yeah.
So they're gonna make it's called the Mr. Beast.
That's like a ghost kitchen.
Mr.
Yeah.
Beast burger, and they'll have it for so many months. And you can order it on DoorDash and all these different things. I don't think you physically can go to a place to eat. I don't know how that works, and then it disappears.
But see, look what podcasting did for him. It made him huge. He took that capital and that power that he got. Now he's got the juice. So now he can go over and he can say, hey, I want to use your kitchen for free.
Yep.
Right? I'm going to bring you business. Lowers his capital to do this.
Of course.
I'm going to come here for 3-4 months, get my name known even here. Not that my name isn't known everywhere, but for those older guys who don't know who I am, now you know me. And then I keep moving. Move.
What I noticed.
Fucking hell of a move, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of when they're in their teens, that's when they're making YouTube videos. And then like Logan Paul, somewhere in their mid-20s, they almost all transition into this kind of stuff, podcasting.
Yep.
I don't know if you noticed that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Is Logan the one that wants to fight Mike?
Yeah, I think.
Is he fucking... They're fighting.
No, I think it's Jake, the younger one.
Jake.
Oh, Jake.
Because Logan broke his hand or something.
Well, Jake's going to have a broken skull pretty soon.
What did you think of Tyson beating up on the guy bothering him on the plane?
I think that Tyson was pretty calm.
Yeah,
Because
Tyson was being nice, right?
Yeah, he took a picture with him. He has
And the
to
guy just kept
calm
going,
down.
right?
And then when you throw, first off, the guy should be in a psych ward right now for throwing a cup at Mike Tyson. I don't know if that kid
Is
did.
that what he did?
Yeah, he
Threw water at him?
Come out, yeah.
He had a soda. So the kid
There's
was.
no one that disagrees. He didn't get what was coming to him.
Listen,
I'd like to see someone
the kid was right behind him. You could see the whole thing, and he was actually coming back from the Rogan show.
Oh,
On the
really?
plane. Yeah, he was
Oh,
actually
geez.
flying back. So, and they were drinking and smoking, So the kid's like tapping him, I guess, for a picture or whatever. So Mike gets up. Okay, kid, leave me the fuck alone. Here's your picture. Keeps fucking with him, right? And Mike said, please leave me alone. Not those exact words,
whatever,
right?
yeah.
Then the kid stands up because he's drunk and throws a cup with liquid, like a cup of, say, iced tea. Well, it's probably Jack and Coke.
Yeah,
you
right,
know,
probably.
at Mike Tyson. Now, look, he was calm enough to deal with this bullshit. Even stood up and took a picture, sit down, and now you're going to throw a cup at that guy?
That's walking into a lion's den.
That's like walking into that's like a AK-45 that the guy's got the trigger on, and you're going to walk right in front of it as he's pulling it. Because if Mike would have fucking, I mean.
What's your take on the Will Smith thing?
Oh, we had this discussion last time.
I'm stumped on that one.
Really?
I was dead set at first that it was real because of the suspension.
Oh, you think it was set up?
Well, I thought it was real 100%. And then we watched it 100 million times with Tig.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think, Rob?
Yesterday. So I'm 50-50 on it.
Really?
And I'm going to go with Tig. If they give him back if he can go back to the award show.
Oh, they banned them from the Oscars organization?
For 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think if...
But he could go to the award show, or he can't
can't.
Oh, and he can't be part of the...
And he can't be a part of
Academy or whatever, right?
Right, so I think if they...
But he gets to keep his Oscar, right?
But he gets to keep
Yeah,
his
yeah,
Oscar. So now I think if they reverse that within the next, say, 2 or 3 years, it might have been staged. Because when we watched it, now think about this, his head went all the way back. Chris Rock.
No, a lot of people said it looked like he was. It was being anticipated.
I mean, yeah, because he had his hands behind.
They said it was
his
a
back.
very perfect, lean, yeah.
And then it goes all the way back. But then the other 50% says, "Wait a minute." Now they just boot him off the award shows. If he did that as a hoax, he'll never be looked at the same again ever. He's not gonna get the same movie roles, even if they come out tomorrow and say, "Hey, it was a hoax." His movie career is half dead.
Right.
You know, I don't care what you do. So, are you going to risk that for ratings?
Do you think he gets divorced in the next year or two?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. She's been letting him fuck whoever she wants for this long. I mean, does he want another thing in the media?
You think so, Rob?
I think he probably gets divorced. I'm not torn on it. I mean, it's a comic. You don't go up there. You expect a comic to make jokes.
It was a mild joke, right?
It was a bullshit joke. There's a G.I. Jane joke.
Should have handled it.
Actually, could get you a movie deal too. You know, that kind of joke.
But
like
the
that,
only
right?
thing I'm always in favor of, and this is just, I guess, the way I was raised, I just think that, let's just put this a different ways. I think everyone deserves a second chance. In certain situations, I know things are worse.
I think he's a beloved type of actor.
And the guy's been such a great actor for many years. He's been, I just think that he deserves a second chance. That's just me.
And here I'll go and then you go, right? So I should let you go first because you're the guest. But anyway, so now my thing with him is I hope they fucking suspend him forever. I hope every time Chris Rock goes on stage, he buries him because they already fucked with Chappelle. Okay, we can only hope and pray that he comes out and stays the same Chappelle. Now Chris Rock goes to an award show. And a guy is able to go up on stage and yes, no, maybe so,
bitch slap
punch him, punch him, slap him, whatever.
Yeah.
So now, what does this do to other comedians? Now you can't be funny. Now you can't tell your normal jokes because they didn't arrest him. They didn't haul him out. So the next comedian that goes up, he's making jokes in the front row. He doesn't know if some jacked guy with who knows, is going to come up on stage and clock him. And then by Will Smith doing that, on top of the Chappelle shit, on top of the Rogan shit, and whatever else, you're killing comedy. You're killing it. And laughter's the best thing in the world.
And the comedians aren't going to take that gig anymore.
That's what I mean.
Did you guys know the Oscars was going on?
No.
My one buddy goes, because the clip went viral in real time.
Yeah.
So he goes, I was just paying it. It's Sunday. He goes to see the clip, and he goes, but the Oscar, it was like literally, because now everything's almost instant. He goes, I wonder when this happened because he thought it happened like a week ago. It's like, no, it happened right now.
Well, the rating.
The clip went.
We said they said on when we listened to or when Tig was in.
Yeah.
Right after it went like viral, people turned the Oscars on and they had their highest ratings in 10 years.
Spike, huh?
The last.
That's what gives me the 50.
Right. So it's like
because they were at like 2 million.
I didn't even know what was going on. Right.
I didn't know
there's
either.
90 to 100 million people watching.
Usually I would have watched
the
it
whole
just a
world
little bit of it to
of
see what
course.
happens. I didn't even know it was on. So the ratings were like one of the lowest ever in history, if not the lowest. I have to look at it again, but I think it was the lowest in history. Then he does that, boom.
What's your take on? Have you watched the Johnny Depp?
Give me your
thing?
take on it.
No, I mean I'm pretty much agreement. I the way he then yelled after he sat down.
Yeah.
You can tell he's having some kind of nervous break or something.
Well, his wife is fucking everybody.
There's
he's
yeah,
got to sit at home.
he's
Put it this way: there's stuff
mentally
that he's trying to handle internally,
Yep.
and unfortunately, it came out in the most. You ever watch A Star Is Born, where like
Oh yeah, lady.
Bradley Cooper's character? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I mean, he rivaled that moment and
fucking
one up
did.
did.
He fucking
Because I watched that movie and I was like very uncomfortable when Bradley Cooper's all drunk on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Smith somehow won up the most, and that was fiction,
You're fucking
right?
Yeah.
But this.
So I thought of that. I was like, wow, this is.
So what? No, percentage. You can't give me 50-50 because I gave you 50-50.
Oh, I'm leaning more 90%. That was his. He had a mental break
Real?
of he can't take what's going on with.
I was only 50-50 because of the rating thing. But
I think he
mean,
was
to risk
raised
your
old
fucking
fashioned, and he's now caught up with all this stuff. And even though it sounds great, I don't think he's down with it. You
But
know.
you would never give him a second chance ever. Well,
No.
he's dead to you.
Dead to me because if he did do that, he fucked up comedy. He possibly could have fucked up comedy, and I really like comedy
What
because I
happens
like
if
to
we- what
laugh.
if-
I'd give him a second chance. It just, I feel for him. I feel like you said though. I mean, that's dangerous because now you get these drunks. Have you been? You've been to comedy shows, right?
Yeah, yeah. I love to laugh.
Usually, my experience, it's a bachelorette group that's all drunk that ruins the show. All right, that's like number one. But then you have someone that's probably an alkie. They've been drinking all day. Someone dragged them into the show, and if you're the unlucky person, I've been in this position to sit next to that person.
Oh,
They're going to destroy the show for everybody, and it's very uncomfortable. And you're right. I mean, if they see that it's okay to do worse, I hopefully it doesn't happen. But those individuals, they're already sauced up when they're at the shows
yeah.
usually.
I mean, and I have a very open mind. So actually, my mind shifted more to where, although I was 50-50, I don't think anybody would be that dumb to risk their fucking whole career because he did lose one movie that was.
Oh, he's
I think,
losing all kinds of
27
deals.
million. So I'm starting to go 90. I'm starting to go
Well,
90.
I'm more curious to see what happens with the relationship. Like, do they survive it, or
I think they stay together for
he's
a while.
obviously not happy.
He's in India right now getting meditated or
Hmm.
therapy or whatever. I don't know. I mean, maybe in 10 years, give him a second chance.
But what's entertaining right now is the
The
Johnny
death.
Depp. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't not see it.
What do you say about when she pooped in the bed? What did they say? Mayday
He's-
something. What was the term? I forgot.
Yeah.
I saw it today.
A crapo or something.
No, it was even like
It was something funny.
it was very funny,
yeah, it was like a stoopy or something
like that. And then they go, well, it could have been the dogs. They're like, well, we have 2 4-pound Yorkies, and I've seen their
Yeah.
material.
And he's like,
That
I wanted
was
to
not
keep
there.
the kids out of it. And then, well, what happened when she cut your finger off? Well, I didn't want the kids to see it. And he's in the fucking ambulance with a hat on and hand.
I feel bad for her attorneys because every time they're like, oh, we'll put her sister on there. It's like everybody's burying her.
Yeah, well, I was saying to take.
There's no way there.
Johnny went in there. His lawyers are monsters because
And he's rehabbing his career, right? That's what this is about.
pretty much
Because he lost Pirates of the Caribbean and all kinds of stuff.
that was a kill. That,
Yeah.
that had to have killed him. But he went in there, on stand, and he said, "Yeah, I do coke, I drink,
Yeah,
I do
he
this,
owned
I
up
do
to all his
that."
partying, right?
So now when her
They got
team comes in,
nothing to-
what are they gonna do? He just
Right.
said everything. What I
Right.
mean? I mean, that was a hell of a move. It's a fucking shame.
The
Though.
way he's talking, though, is very comical, and you can tell he's holding back sometimes.
Yeah,
It is a shame.
talking
Listen,
little
the
fucked
poor
up.
girl's mentally ill, and
Yeah.
it's an extreme case.
Do you think Johnny Depp really talks all slow like that, or is that
I don't-
acting coming out?
You have to realize when you're that famous for that long, you're out to lunch after a certain point because everybody's like kissing your ass 24/7.
Yeah.
And he's a hell of a partier when he's.
Well,
not
think about
acting,
yourself or myself. Like, let's just
Yeah.
say if a couple hundred people kiss your ass, but now you're talking about the whole globe.
too. Yeah,
You're a national treasure.
they can kind
Everywhere,
of make you
Mr.
a little
Depp,
fucked up.
Mr. Depp. Oh, yeah. You kidding me? It messes up your whole sense of self.
But
That's why kids, if you're famous early, you're pretty much, you almost have no shot.
no
Yeah,
shot.
That's true.
Oh, it's like 99% of those kids
99%,
are messed up.
Now, if he beats this, what do you think the odds are they put him back in Pirates of the
Oh,
Caribbean?
his career is going to be, I think his career is going to be hot.
Hot as in good?
Everybody's watching it.
Yeah. They got to put him back.
He's the first thing I've seen where they divert from political commentary.
Correct.
I know.
He's the
You're
first
right.
thing I've
He's
seen
right.
where even the political
Fucking
shows
guy's
are like,
right.
let's talk about Johnny Depp,
You're
and
right.
everybody's laughing again.
right. You put on anything, Fox, CNN. They're talking about,
Everybody's having a good time with it.
hey, there's a nuclear missile that went, Depp's on.
Yeah.
We'll get back to the nuclear.
Or they got his buddy that's an artist. We could all relate. He's like, hey, why don't you live with me? And the guy's like, what is it like to live
It
with
looks
Johnny?
like Russia's taking over Ukraine, but we're gonna go to the
Johnny Depp trial first.
There was a Twitter comment I saw, and it was like, it's interesting how the Ghislaine Maxwell, we didn't see anything, but the Johnny Depp,
Yeah,
because it's popcorn for the brain, just keep everybody distracted. You know?
I was when I first saw him sitting there and talking so slow, I'm like, is he fucked up in the head? Is he on fucking something? Because I know he likes to fucking party when he's not doing movies. You ever seen him party like with his band?
No.
Holy shit! Have you, Rob?
I bet he's doing
Boy,
some
he
good
gets-
drugs.
He knows how to party.
Oh, he knows how to party.
He's doing some good.
But he also knows how to clean it up real quick
Yeah,
and do an acting role. But as of now, they're not going to put him in Pirates of the Caribbean. They're fucking crazy. That movie makes like $400 million.
All these companies are going to be relooking their strategy because, Netflix just went down, Disney's going
Yeah,
like,
Netflix went down.
and now you're seeing who's going up. Twitter's going up, because you got Spotify, YouTube. I'm sure is going to relook at their strategy.
Now, Netflix went down what? They went down quite a bit, 20%?
Yeah, it was like $50 billion in net worth.
Right. Do you think that's because everybody's just merging over to the Spotifys and the YouTube?
I think there's a lot. Yeah, I could tell you this. I watch more YouTube than anything.
Me too.
And if Rob, he's telling me about the kids, I go look at, if you actually look at the younger kids, they're watching TikTok more than YouTube now.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay? So when I go hang out with my nephews during Christmas time, I always look at what's on their phone. TikTok is like,
What do you think about TikTok?
I took it off my phone. It's the most addictive thing ever created.
You know that they have the worst fucking coding ever.
Do they really?
It's all, first off, it's all China. There's this whole U.S. bullshit, like that they made the deal so they could come back. That deal must have been for 3 months until
Right, it
Trump
was all-
left,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's all China, and it's the worst. I mean, out of all the platforms, like the main ones, it is the worst. There's so much spyware every time you
Really?
fucking crazy. Tons and tons and tons. Malware.
Yeah, I
out
took
the
it
ass.
off. I took it off my phone, not because of that. People were saying that, but the other part is my daughter and I, we'd watch these literally this one girl's painting rocks, but it was so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, my wife's like, you guys been watching videos for an hour. And in the brain, your brain, the serotonin, we felt like we were watching for 5 minutes. I go, I can't I took it off.
Yeah, because your dopamine increases. along
Dopamine,
with
the little one doesn't even realize it.
Yeah.
So let's look at those videos. And I'm like, it's off my phone.
You know what's amazing from a business perspective, I think, too, in certain businesses, right? You market toward kids, right? And I may think it's the stupidest thing, right? It would talk about Mr. Beast Burger. Oh my God, that's
Right.
dumb. Once they start putting TikTok videos out, and when a kid asks you for something, what does the parent normally do? 9 times out of 10 nowadays.
They get it. They get it.
Yeah.
We'll go get it. We'll
Oh,
go get
absolutely.
it. When you've taken over that whole realm, and every kid is asking for now the big things my kids have, teenagers, those they're like guns, but they shoot water pellets almost. Like
Interesting.
Globies or something. Every single kid has one.
It's so weird, It's
Yeah,
how
you're reacting to
things-
what they're being programmed.
Yeah, because they're seeing it on the social media, and then one kid has it, just like anything else. Like one kid gets a cool bike, a
Yep.
cool Huffy. Now we all want the Huffy. Well, now everybody wants the TikTok shit. Or
Well, the thing that's weird, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, because you got the kids, it's the speed of how fast these things spread.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll be like, did I miss something? But it just happened yesterday. Whereas when we were kids, I could tell you the trends, like you said, Huffies. Then there was the Cavaricis. Then you had the different pants. It took like a year or two. You had to go get it. But now a trend could happen like yesterday. Remember they had the little rubber bands, and they had the pop things,
Mm-hmm.
the spinners.
Yep.
The one that sticks out in my head is just that girl making all that money farting in that. that is, but that's
There's
what
other-
like
there's other
podcasting
crazier
can do.
stuff too,
Now,
yeah.
would you consider when somebody puts up a 3-minute video that with no attention span on TikTok, would you consider that a form of podcasting?
Not really. It's so I see TikTok, Twitter. This is how I would relate this. If you have a YouTube channel like you do, that's your home. If you have a podcast, audio based, some people don't even have video. They just have audio. That's your home. If I'm walking through a mall, those people in the middle with the kiosks, and they go, "Hey, Tommy, you want to try this or you want to try that?" That's TikTok. That's Twitter. It's trying to grab your
Great
attention
analogy.
as you're scrolling through the feed. But then where are you going to
That's
take? Where are you going to take them? You got to take them back to your home. So from TikTok, I got to take you to YouTube.
Yep.
And then what people don't realize, for every penny that you monetize, I forgot what a TikToker broke it down, but the monetization on YouTube, I think it's 100x. It's a lot more, 10, 20x. The money's a lot more on YouTube. Instagram, I don't know, depending on the models and what they get paid. I don't really.
Instagram's all fucking weird.
It's weird,
and
yeah.
TikTok, the weird thing about TikTok is if you sign up for like their monetization program, then they're really on you. Then the censors kick in like crazy. But if you don't, you can still post more and have more leniency, but then point it to YouTube or Spotify or wherever you want.
Yeah, so your home is so your content wherever you and you know the term OTT, they call it over the top.
Yeah.
So that's delivering content over the top. The first time I heard, I was like, "What?" This is years ago. I was at National Association of Broadcasters, and you realize that the person that owns their content and could put it over the top like everywhere. So my wife does meditation for women. So she's the top creator of meditations for women in the world. She has 6 shows across the spectrum.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so she has a YouTube side. She has an audio side. She's on all the Spotify, Amazon. Then she's selling
Good for her.
bundles of those meditations.
That's awesome.
But it took years. So she went from Biz Women Rock, then she pivoted, and she loves what she does.
I just love that she didn't give up.
She didn't give up, yeah. You know, and also concepts get old. So after 6 years of doing what she was doing, she was ready for something new. And she said, let me try these meditations. We didn't know where it was going to go, but, you know, when COVID hit, people were flocking to meditations. And then she said to me, can you look at my analytics? I was like, listen, these things about sleep, you should create a separate show. So that created the sleep show. Then we said, what's the other habit? Morning, when you get up in the morning. We created the morning show. Then you create sleep sounds. And, you know, there's a lot of different things.
I'm going to check, because I got sleeping problems like you wouldn't believe.
Check it out.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I really do. And I
it's for women, but still great.
I don't care.
No,
It
what
helps
I'm
me
saying,
sleep,
it's geared to Jen when she says, namaste, beautiful, whatever. It's for the feminine, but yeah.
That's all right.
I listen. I fall asleep to it all the time. Sleep sounds. It's
Yeah.
amazing stuff.
That's just so all through the podcasting.
And she feels good because she helps people all over the world. She gets, unfortunately, a hacker got her Instagram.
Really?
She had 20. Yeah, it was one of those where they fish you, you know.
Oh, they brute force?
It wasn't like anything, but she's very trusting. She didn't check it.
Yeah.
Some guy in Saudi Arabia was like, hey, if you don't pay me, I'm going to nuke it. She's like, go fuck yourself, go nuke it. It was like, she had a lot of people on it.
I want to ask you something about blockchain. How strong is that encryption?
So you're a coder, so you would know. I would say the Bitcoin blockchain, from what I understand from the technologists, it's moving the slowest because they built the layer over Bitcoin is called the Lightning Network, and they're very methodical because they don't want it to break. In other words, they want it to be very robust.
I see.
So right now, in the next couple of years, all these Lightning products are coming out as we speak. Ethereum, you could build much faster because it's much more nimble. But I could tell you right now, there's a token or a thing that I like, Web3 technology. They had to upgrade all of it because they're all constantly upgrading because of what you're saying. There are faults in the system.
Yeah.
But you got to fix them. And then you got to know which team is on top of it. If you know someone's not updating it, you should.
Because I would just think, just the little that I know about blockchain, that would be some shit.
There's a lot of things.
Continuously keep it encrypted out of like 256 nothing. I mean, you got to be way above.
Yeah. We're not. It's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Someone like you with your talents. I mean,
Fuck that. I'm not playing with blockchain.
Hey, you don't sleep anyway. You'll be good.
I don't have any more time left.
Hey, come on. You don't sleep.
Ask him, what time do I go to bed?
I don't know. I go to bed. I wake up the next morning. I got a text at 2:30 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I'm like, what the fuck?
Because I know he's already in bed. So if it's on my mind, I want to text him.
So he has it when he wakes up. Yeah.
Because I'm up at 4 I'm making,
yeah.
I'm doing all kinds of crazy shit. But, So what is your definition of a podcaster?
Well, I'll give you a definition of podcast. It's on-demand audio delivered through the internet that is searchable in nature. So it's very unique.
Oh, that was like a fucking robot answer.
Yeah,
that was very good.
Yeah, so that's my definition.
Asked that before.
Yeah, so most people think of a podcast and they think of this, which is an interview show, and that's fine. But to me, a podcast is on-demand audio searchable through the internet. So what does that mean? Let's say you're a jeweler and people ask you what's the quality of your jewels, and VVS quality. I don't know if you know anything about jewels, but there's different grades.
Marketing for a company.
Of course, so you understand there's different grades.
Yeah.
But the common person has no freaking clue.
Right.
They could literally create a Q&A show. That's a podcast where they answer questions that people ask, and when they leave, let's say a networking event, they could shoot them over the podcast, and it's literally dynamic, searchable content. And it could be quality of gems. And now I want to do business with this guy because he took me 3-4 steps down the lead cycle by listening to him in my car as I drove home, trying to figure out if I want to buy a rock for my significant other. As far as
So now what would you place this as?
this is an interview format, but then you have storytelling. You have people that just do. There's audio drama, theater of the mind. War of the Worlds. Back in the day when people thought they were being invaded by aliens, that was audio drama. So there's so many different things that this is, but then fundamentally, what people don't realize, and this is where they miss the mark, it's all searchable through the internet. So when my wife created her meditation network, and she said, "I want to serve women," that's her calling. We created the meditation for women. As simple as that sounds, we know it's searchable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it's simple, easy keywords.
Well, I travel the world, and people tell me, "Oh, I want to call it Lola's meditation." Well, who's Lola? And luckily, you have the meditation in there, but you got to be very specific. What's the meditation going to do? It's a sleep meditation, a morning meditation. So now the consumer knows what they're getting, and then for marketing, you want to brand it. So she has a brand. Just like NBC has 3 letters, it's WMN, Women's Meditation Network. Those 3 letters on every one of her cover art.
Very cool.
So you could identify that family of shows, and then she's listed in iTunes as a network. So you could actually request to have your own network. So then it's not just your show; it's all the family of shows you create are in iTunes where people can watch everything.
That's really cool. And then she's got the 3 letters, so you don't even need. You just know like NBC, ABC, CBS.
Well, the user knows. Okay, there's a mark of quality.
I mean, your wife is so popular now that that symbol that was created whenever now is a
well,
symbol
the
symbol,
algorithms too. You want to get in the algorithms because that, if you could crack that, that's the holy grail. So, anyways, the referral algorithm and Spotify and how people see. Oh, I
like
listen,
targeting stuff.
yeah,
like
targeting and all that. We do a lot of ad buys and different things to make sure that people find us in the players. But that's the next level. I think the creator control. So these companies, and you're seeing it now, that don't want to service certain people. Like I forgot who it was, the Daily Wire. They created their own razor company overnight, and they had like millions of sales. So the power now is in the creator. The influencer has more power than even the manufacturing because everything's coming through the influencer. You're the gatekeeper.
You're basically the salesman.
That's right.
Right, and then you go to the company or whatever to, even if you're a sponsor, right? Even if we're sitting here together and we're sponsoring Monster, right?
Yep.
We're the salesman. And we're pushing it to them.
Correct.
Now, do you think, in the next 5 years, can audio podcasting alone survive?
I think we're seeing it now merging with video. So you just have, I think, yes, it can survive because radio survived for like 100 years or whatever.
But what about, say, 10 years from now, when every car you get in, if you have an Apple phone, boom, you can go right to Spotify, you can go to YouTube, or you can go to whatever.
So if you want to go 10 years from now, we're not driving a car.
Oh, that's right. We'll stick with 5. So
no, but think about it. Now you're in the car. If you're in a car, but let's say you're in a car that drives itself, you probably have, Rob, you said Oculus, so you probably have some kind of Oculus on.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably in the metaverse, and you're probably walking around, and you're going into a stage set, sitting here watching us do this. Yeah. So it's it's
a good answer.
No, like when you start thinking about that, and then the metaverse, from my understanding, is it's like an onion. There's layers to all of it. So one guy might say, "I want to sit there." Another one says, "I want to be up in the ceiling watching this." So you're selling spots to all of it, and then you might have different layers. So like, hey, this is the purple version. This is the psychedelic version. If you're tripping, this is this version. This is the one where we mix in. Little Pikachus running on the desk while we're talking. This is one that animates the Rogan things, and everything is a paid experience. If you're the content that I want to get the different thing while I'm driving, while the car's driving me to my next destination
or flying, yeah,
flying. So for meditation, I've thought about this because we've looked into it. For meditation, we want to find the 3 or 4 worlds. So if you look up like Super World is a big one, so you want to find the worlds where we could then find a busy area and buy Katie an area where it could be a meditation station, and when the person goes in there, it's got binaural beats, and they could literally listen to her meditations, and then that counts as a download from the metaverse back into her downloads.
I say, yeah.
So that's the future.
Yeah, just like now if you go in and, a lot of times they put those things on your head. And
It's going to either be
similar thing, just
all kinds of hardware.
I'm like relating to what you're saying, like
100%.
a simple thing. Yeah. That's probably what's going to
So what I'm saying is you have to realize we're not going to be doing work. You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
The bots are going to do the work. So what are we going to do? We're going to consume. And who are we going to consume? Whatever these influencers like yourself, whoever's putting it out, doing a good job, you're just going to have that brand, and you're probably going to be just consuming more and more. So entertainment, I studied the history of Henry Ford a long time ago. You know that...
he's a really interesting guy. A
Very.
lot more than fucking cars.
Yeah.
I've read some. Go
It
ahead.
was like a 36-hour book that I went through, audiobook.
I didn't get that far.
He created, the roadside stands where farmers, you go pick up.
Mhm.
That didn't exist till the car was invented. Like
Right, because why would he have it?
why
all
would
over
you
the
have it?
place,
Everything
right?
was centralized in a main street, right? With
Mhm.
cobblestones and horse and wagon. So I remember just reading his history. He started explaining, like, here's what's going to happen. Back then, he would tell people, here's what's going to happen. Blah, blah. They're like, this guy's out of his mind. Because if people are going to move out into the country, it's like, why? Because now you could drive and have property. Because before that, you couldn't have property. You had to live down in Manhattan, and the crap was flowing down the streets, right? Like gangs in New York style. And he started explaining what was about to happen. So we're right now at the precipice of the old world as we know it. And the new world, when you really put it together, it's exhilarating and scary all at once because people will be tied into the metaverse. And I know a lot of these metaverse people will tell you, we still want you to appreciate reality, but that's not the truth.
That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, they're going to create hybrid systems
Yes.
to get you on the on-ramp.
It's a business.
And then once you're there, they're
You
going to
ain't
keep
coming off.
delivering more and more, right? So, yeah, maybe it's true in their mind now, but as the people get into it,
But the people that know, like Elon, like we said, asking for an AI force, it's so that there's some type of limitations on the shit.
yeah, but the way he thinks, like most people,
Just don't fucking
He's
think.
unbelievable. He's unbelievable.
I mean, we all know what.
We can hang with them for a couple of minutes.
We've all had friends that we hang out with that aren't the sharpest tool in the shed, and you try and explain something.
Yeah.
And even people are fairly intelligent, like, I still don't get it. Like, it takes a while to understand. So what Elon's warning you is probably going to happen because he's already seen it. He's creating half of it.
Yeah.
Which company do you think is, because he always talks about there's a company that has AI that's more advanced than anything else. Which company do you think he's talking about? Because he never names it out in public.
I think he's talking about Neuralink.
Really?
Yeah, because the
But
Neuralink.
he owns that, though.
Yeah, but everything isn't fully done yet. Like he's got that chip that would make you as fast as a computer, just like he's doing like the paraplegics or if you have Alzheimer's.
But he talks about another company in Silicon Valley you got to watch out for. I don't know if it's
Oh, shit. I
Facebook
don't
or
know.
Google. He's just always like, they got stuff that. The interesting thing, he goes, if a government gets a hold of it, they could take over the whole world.
I bet it's
You could
cool.
enslave the world. Isn't that crazy?
I don't know, what do you think he's talking about?
I don't know. I've always thought which company. I would think Google.
Google
but-
would be my
Yeah.
Google.
No, but it could be Amazon. Who the heck knows? It's because they got the AI running.
Google would be my money.
Have you ever talked to anyone that worked at Amazon?
I had a
No.
I'm talking like
No.
not high up. I'm like, we had a babysitter once, and she had a really firm handshake. I'm like, man, you got a firm handshake.
I know they work him to death.
She goes, I worked at Amazon. I go, well, what happened? She goes, I stopped working. So in my head, I'm like, her handshake's very firm. You get a good feeling. I go, she looks like a hard worker. I go, tell me your story. She's like, well, they do. They have teams. And they work the people like the robot. Like they treat them like robots. And they got these warehouses are,
Massive.
Huge.
Oh yeah, it's like 10 Home Depots. It's not,
Yeah.
and that's probably small, right? And I go to her, you're young. How old are the people working with you? Some are 40, 50. I go, are their knees lasting? She goes, no, they got surgeries. They're all messed up. They're bandaged up. And I go, so what happened? She goes, well, I got into the system. They gave me a bonus out of college. So they know, like, if they give you the bonus, you have to stick because you have to pay back if you leave.
Yeah.
And they know their metrics. So then she's like, yeah, my team finished first place. And then I quit. I go, why? Because I'm thinking that's great. She goes, because you realize at first place, what are you going to do? Walk 20 miles every day and you're on a clock? It only gets worse, right? Because
Right.
if you won, now you got the other guy's going to knock you off. And I go, what about your supervisor? Oh, they have it worse. I go, they have it worse? She goes, yeah, they're standing up and they're taking orders from Seattle. And they're more stressed out than us on the floor. And you realize like it's a pressure cooker. And I go, how do they know? They go, they track every step. They have computers that tell them what the most efficient thing. And I go, so I'm assuming that once they get computers, they don't need you guys. Oh, yeah, they're 100%. They're already working on it. That's why they still have people. And they go, they pay you well. So I said, what do you do? She goes, well, I have to pay him back.
Because she left.
She didn't last. They know they know
Yeah,
like
they know
if
the
they
game.
get you a year and a half,
Yep.
you're so used to it, you're not going to go back out. So then we called her to babysit, and she goes, "Oh, I went back," because they know what you're going to do.
Right.
You got to pay back that whatever $50,000 signing bonus,
yeah.
whatever you thought was great money.
That you didn't want to, that you couldn't
I couldn't
fulfill.
believe it. Yeah, this is firsthand from her.
Now, do you think
breaking
that's
it
a
down.
good thing or a bad thing? Because you can look at it two ways. One, it makes people work hard.
Well, they get paid good money comparatively, so the people, they pay premium. I don't see it good or bad. I just see it as, in some ways, it's inhumane. Like, get the machines then, you know. But it is what it is. You know that they're going to, all I know is Amazon will automate the moment they don't need humans.
Right.
And they're telling the people know that. There's no confusion of what the agenda is.
I look at it like this, right? I look at it like if you're going to go box, if you're going to go play football, if you're going to play rugby, you know you're going to get hit like a motherfucker, right? And probably be a little fucked up when you're done boxing or whatever. I don't know too many none of them really talk 100% right. So if you're going to go work at Amazon, you know you're going to get paid decently. You're going to have a job. You're going to get worked to death. And if you don't finish it, you're going to have to pay it back. So now if you make that decision to go work for them and they're telling you.
Yeah. I
Then,
agree with
then
you.
I see nothing wrong with it because they're telling you, look, as soon as these fucking robots are good, see ya. And we're going to work you to death. And if your leg falls off, you still lose the 50
my
grand.
thing, I'll tell you where my mind went when I heard this. I'm like, shit, I should work part-time, lose 20 pounds. I wouldn't have a choice. And you'll make money. Like, I'm not kidding. I thought, that's where my mind's like,
That
if I
should
work
be
for
his
these
selling
guys on
point.
the
He'd have people
weekend-
fucking lined up to the
yeah.
moon.
I remember my son's.
That's what I thought. It was just telling me, I'll lose 20 pounds.
They should put a commercial. Work with Amazon.
Yeah, because
lose
I want to
20
beat the
pounds.
team. I know I'm competitive. It's like, we'll beat the team. It'll be great.
I remember my son. My son's 15 now. My oldest.
You'll come
son's
in 20
15.
pounds soaking wet.
My oldest son's
Sorry.
15, and my former brother-in-law, he's divorced now, but still talk to him. So Mike's son's 15. He was 2 years old at this time, I believe 2. And he worked at Amazon back then when it had first kind of started. They had robots then. I mean, they had robots.
Yeah, they've
and
always
all that
been,
stuff,
yeah.
right? So he'd bring my son there, so my son would see the robot. My son still remembers, like, I remember the robots at Uncle Drew, and it would do this and do that. But where I'm going with this story is he was very smart with stocks. And he bought a whole shit ton of Amazon stock back then when it was, I don't know.
I hope he held on.
And Amazon would give so much stock to it this
Sure,
time. I don't know
sure.
if they still do or how that works. Well, when he went through his divorce, they sold off.
The woman got him.
And
She got him.
can you imagine if he had that right now?
Oh,
I think it's over $3,000 a share. or
She's
something.
probably got the biggest Kool-Aid
Well,
smile
no,
on her face.
she.
They
does.
liquidated and divided the other.
Correct.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
divided.
Can you imagine buying Apple, though, in the beginning?
I was told about Bitcoin when it was $60 a coin, and I went to go buy it, and then my wife was like, you should think about it. What do you know about this stuff? But I said to her, we got to get in.
You want to hear something even sicker? My,
Yeah,
my friend by you in St. Petersburg,
Yeah.
the dumbest guy on the fucking planet. Funny. We only hung out with him because he was funny.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you could not have, like, an intelligent conversation with him. He was just like, hey, can you do it? Funny guy, but cool. We protected him and shit. This guy buys it at 3-something. Like when it first
$3.
came- when it, like, really
that's
early.
you're in the first,
And he
couple-
bought a ton. He bought a ton. Now, he lives in a $7 million house,
Jeez.
yacht.
He never sold
Fuck
it. Then, yeah.
Well, when it went, I think when it first hit, like at that 20K,
19,000,
19,
yeah.
he sold, made a shit ton. I mean, the guy's living like a rock star, and then he took a lot of it and invested it well at the time, and just
you
getting
said,
returns.
yeah,
and he's
yeah.
just killing it. And I
You
mean,
never
this
know.
is,
You never know.
this is literally like that guy that you go to the bar and you see him with a ripped up shirt on, looks like he hasn't changed in 2 years, stinks.
Good for him.
And little do you know,
Yeah, good for him.
good for him. And little do you know, the motherfucker's got $40 billion in the bank.
I remember telling my wife.
And that really happened at the.
Oh, I believe you.
There was a guy at the hotel over here called the Breakers. You know what the Breakers
Of course.
is, right? It's like
Flagler's,
Yeah, it's like
one of his
huge.
signature hotels, yeah.
And I was over there. We were working. And I was looking at this guy. I couldn't even believe they let him in there. Because
He was the richest guy in there.
it was because we were working. And I said, "Who?" Because the owner was done watching Bloomberg. You can't talk to the guy until Bloomberg's done. That's a whole nother story. Excuse me. So He comes down to get me. He says, "Okay, come back up," because you couldn't go talk to him until the stocks were done.
Right.
You could not fucking talk. It didn't. If the building was on fire,
Didn't
you
matter.
couldn't fucking talk to him until that bell hit.
Right.
And he came down. I said, "I can't believe you let this guy in here." He goes, "You know who that is?" I said, "No." And he said some name. I still don't know. I go, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, he's worth 120 billion."
Jeez.
So I don't know who the fuck he was, but it's just like you never know.
Do you know who Frank McKinney is?
No.
He builds spec homes out on West Palm Beach over here. So he's known as the world's greatest spec home builder. He builds those beautiful like mansions right by the Ritz-Carlton and everything. Great guy. So he was building, and he does a lot of charity with Haiti. This is years ago. So he said, "Guys, we're doing a charity thing. Come on out, and I hope you meet my mentor and all this stuff." So we're touring Aquiliana. It's a triple green certified, first ever ultra man. It was amazing what he built. So there's this old timer with shitty jeans, about 80 years old. You know, looks like the penguin kind of. He's got a cane. And I go to Katie, we got to help this guy out. You know, I feel bad for him. He comes in, he's following everybody. All of us are dressed nice. We'd give him some money. So I don't know if I said to her, I go, yeah.
Give him some money.
I go, I don't know where. Well, we gave money to the charity, but you know, this old timer, you don't know, you know. So later on, down the street at Frank's house, he sets up. He has a beautiful home. And the old timer, the same old timer, stands up and goes, "This is my mentor, Mr. DeVos. He started Amway. He owns the Orlando Magic." And the guy is the old man.
Oh my!
And the guy starts saying how, you know, he got a heart transplant. They saved his life, gave him another 10 years. And I go to my wife, "What the like we thought
He's like,
this poor old man, you know, hobbling around."
You're like, "Hey, do you think we can get our money back?" Right.
We felt bad for him. And then he was the guy that we came to, you know, the mentor, and he's talking about having half a dozen jets and taking the family to see the Magic play in the finals with
right?
Shaq and Penny.
Fucking unbelievable. He came down.
You never know who. What I've noticed is the wealthiest people, one, they don't ever brag.
Mm-hmm.
The hotshots brag because they've never had money, but the wealthiest people, they don't ever brag, and most of them don't dress that well.
And
Maybe in Miami they dress well, but if you go around, they're not the best dressed people.
and a lot of them don't have.
Salespeople are always the best dressed people because they tried to sell you on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
And these like if you go out here and you make a right, maybe 2 miles down, it's right by you know where we're at. Those fucking houses are huge. When the gates open, which is because they don't even live. How much are those houses down there, Rob?
they got $100 million.
Okay.
$100 million.
How many houses would you say on this road are $100 million?
Going down that way?
Yeah.
A whole ton.
A whole ton?
Down that way.
Yeah, probably about 50, right?
A lot.
Okay, so say if you take a right out here, there's 50 houses at $100 million a piece.
More.
Okay, now let's say I've seen 30 of the gates open.
Mhm.
I've never seen a nice car in their houses.
Yeah, that's
It's
something
always
that's
Toyota.
you always see that, right?
Always.
That's because they probably made the money. Yeah.
Well, because they're smart. That's
Yeah.
why they have the $100 million house that they never go see.
So I used to run an association for small business owners, and we used to go recruit to get business owners. I go to a lot of meetings. I remember one time I went to a meeting. Everybody's dressed really nice. I said to my buddy, "Let's get out of here." He goes, "Why?" I go, "Business owners don't dress up in fancy suits." He's like, "How do you know?" I go, "I've been living with them forever." I go, "They just don't." He goes, "Are you sure?" So let's talk to 3-4 people, all salespeople.
All salesmen.
Because a business owner doesn't have they are marching to a tune of their own drummer. They don't think the same way.
Yeah,
And the ones that hit big, yes, they were very good at automating and doing the same thing for 40 years and perfecting, right? That's how they get to the $1 billion level. But a lot of small ones, it's the same behavior. It's just they just don't have maybe the what do you call it? The patience and the aggressiveness to just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think the patience is the big thing, right?
Yeah, because it's rinse and repeat. And most entrepreneurs
rinse and
don't have that.
Mhm.
They're more, there's a new thing or something,
You know, the most amazing thing to me that I've seen since I've really gotten into podcasting about for 2 years is that Dr. Malone, who invented the vaccine, right? Those guys do not come out of their shell. They stay in that little lab. You never see these fucking guys ever. But because of podcasting and because he got the wrong info, he came out of his hole. And I don't mean that bad. I mean, he's the top vaccinologist in the world.
Yeah, he created the platform that.
And then he came out and said it was wrong. And then he went back to Japan and fixed it. But what I'm saying is because of podcasting, he was able to go on a podcast and not, hey, Dr. Malone, what happened? You have 10 seconds. Sorry, heartbreak. We got to go. he was able to go on a 3-hour podcast and explain in detail everything.
Well, I'll tell you why that is.
But what I mean is you could never have done that without podcasting.
No,
That's why it's so special.
It is special, and the reason is, and Rob, I hope you know this because this is I've asked many of my podcasting people, like, why did that happen? Because the podcaster, you own your RSS feed. That is your, for people that don't know what that is, it's the VIN number for your audio.
Yeah.
That's what I call it, because people know what a VIN number is for a car. I go, it's the code that says this is your audio, and then if you don't want to host it with Anchor, even though Anchor's free, you could go pay a host, $5 a
Buzzsprout.
Buzzsprout. You could pay Buzzsprout, Libsyn, Podbean, any of them, and they all compete. And they're going to direct it to hundreds of directories, so that competition keeps the bigger companies honest, because they're like, hey, if we don't have these guys, they're going to go on the other 100 players. That's the reason. Had audio been consolidated the way YouTube is, you would have never had any of that could have been squashed.
That would have been it.
So
right?
in its own way, it's one of the few decentralized. Yeah, that's why podcasting's so special.
And now that you say that, I noticed, because before the whole thing with Spotify, I was using Buzzsprout, and I kept seeing them getting quicker kicking it to the directory. Because at first
They're really good. That team's they're amazing.
At first, they were real slow with Apple and a couple other ones. Apple, I was surprised how much power Listen Notes has.
Yeah, well, Listen Notes is a huge directory. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the power that it has. You wouldn't think it, but when you point it, you know what I mean when I say point.
Yep.
When you point it fucking has power. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and
Blew my
Buzzsprout
mind.
is a Florida company. They're out of Jacksonville.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Great group of technologists. Great guys.
Great customer service too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where everything's at now, when you have the audio, you have the video, you have the YouTube, you have the Spotify. Do you ever see any of this shit clashing? And then maybe Apple comes up with it? Because I always thought it was going to be Apple that
You
was
would
gonna come
hope
with the social media.
Apple
one.
had the lead.
I
Apple
thought
could
that
have
they
owned
were
everything.
because
Let's
they
be
have
honest.
the economic system.
They got everything.
So
Without Steve Jobs, though, there's no one that's got a grand plan.
I thought for sure they would have. They had the opening. People were bitching and moaning. They
You
had
know
the
that
power
Elon
and the
at
money.
one point almost sold everything to Apple.
Ugh.
And they didn't bite. But everybody was talking like, let Elon run Apple.
That would have been cool.
But if you're in charge, you don't want to give up the seat, right?
Yeah.
I listen, we're living in a really amazing time. I feel, this is one thing I know because I get to see experiments across spectrums. Web3, most people don't know what it means yet.
No, I know now. I
know,
know enough now.
but-
Thank you.
But people will, because it's going to touch everything that we're all doing. And it's going to, I mean, think about it. There's people that are not farming, that are playing video games.
I know.
And there's people paying these people to play video games so they could collect tokens through NFTs. So let me expand NFTs. Most people think NFT is a non-fungible, let's say, piece of art.
Okay, so the normal person, in my opinion, thinks that an NFT is a picture with a bunch of shit
Yeah,
on
yeah,
top
yeah,
of
yeah,
a picture,
yeah,
and then it
correct.
sells for $1 gazillion.
Okay, so an NFT, let's think of it this way. An NFT is a digital code. It's a handshake that's built on the blockchain, and that's the one use that people know about it. But you could create what's called functional NFTs. So when you're playing these video games, it's a functional NFT that unlocks, you get a bigger sword, and then it unlocks economics, like money.
And that's all NFT.
Yeah, through tokens.
Wow.
And a lot of people see the tokens. Just think of this. This is how I think of the tokens. Forget about which token's big or whatever. Bitcoin is the reserve currency. Ethereum is more nimble, transactional, and it's going to be the number 2 right now from what we can tell. But think of it this way. You're a business owner, I'm a business owner. How many times have we tried to give affiliate income, or you give people a spiff if they help refer you? And it's a pain in the ass if you're a small business owner. It's a pain in the ass to track. Then some people are like, you never paid me. I'm sorry, I forgot to look in the back office, my CRM.
And then sometimes you did pay them, and they're just fucking you over.
Whatever. There's all kinds of things that happen.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
No, I know.
Sometimes you did pay them. Sometimes
No,
you
I
round
did.
up just so they could shut up, right?
Yeah, that's happened plenty of times.
So the, but now with the tokens and the economics, I could program that all into the system, and it's all built in. So now I have my own, frequent flyer miles, and people could partake in now incentives and bonuses. So we have the same capabilities that the airlines have with all these point systems. So these people are programming all kinds of incentive programs. That's what these tokens are. They just kick off when that happens.
You hear this shit? This whole fucking world's
Listen,
gonna
man,
change.
I'm telling you.
You're right.
Or when you
Probably
go
is.
when
This
you
whole
go
fucking world's
IPO.
gonna
So
change.
I grew up in New York, in Long Island, and a lot of the kids, their parents were floor traders.
Mm-hmm.
So from a very young age, not realizing there was a difference than other kids in the Midwest or whatever, we knew what the stock market was because all our parents were in it. And I remember us learning that Time Warner and AOL are merging like a week before it happens because the parents are the lawyers and then the kids find out, and then we're all playing the market. And I also remember all of us losing money because we didn't know which way it would go up. Even though we knew the information, you learn it's very erratic, right? But what I remember most is, I don't know, they would take some company public, and I'd ask my teacher, hey, so-and-so's dad is on the thing. Yeah, they're part of, the JP Morgan, the Goldman Sachs. They get to buy that stock. I'm like, why do they get to buy it first? Well, that's how it works. They're the investment bankers. They get to buy it. And I go, what do? They sell it on the first day. Why are they buying it and selling on the first day? Well, because they make money. I go, then who buys it after them? Well, everybody else.
Idiots.
So you realize even as a kid, it's a casino that's locked in. They make the spread. And I go, do they ever? And I remember asking, I was like, well, why do they get that? They take on the risk. I was like, do they ever lose? They go, very rare. It's been years since there's been one where it's gone backwards. I remember when the first one was like, oh, they lost a couple $. But you realize how rigged the system is.
Yeah.
So all these tokens and the tokenomics, the reason why a lot of banks hate it is the power is going back to the people for now, right? As Rob said, as it gets bigger and consolidated, who knows what's going to happen. But right now, while no one's paying attention, people are having fun.
I'm telling you.
They're going to regulate. They'll figure it all out,
Sooner or
right?
later, yeah.
Everybody's got to figure out how they're going to get
IRS
their
is
slice.
not going to let it go.
100%. But right now, these normal kids in a home on TikTok are figuring it out.
Yeah.
And they're smart. I've talked to these kids. They're smarter than the traders
It's
on
fucking
Wall Street.
unbelievable.
They start saying sushi swaps. Have you ever talked to them?
You have to hear my 15-year-old son who comes out to me and my wife sitting on the couch watching a movie, and he'll say some of this stuff, and I listen to him, and some of it goes well over my head. I'm listening, and then me and my wife look at each other like, I forget what he was talking about the other night, what he wanted to do, and we looked at each other like, I don't think that's something you'd want to do. The FBI might try to get involved with. Like, we're literally having this conversation like this might be an illegal thing you're trying to do. But he's explaining it to me. He's like, Dad, it's not
How old's
illegal.
your son?
15.
Okay, when I was 19, I was dumb as a brick. Like, I had no awareness of this stuff. And here's the kid at 15 strategizing, telling you, like, what it looks like. The awareness is incredible.
I'm seeing it. I'm thinking, he's the FBI. The FBI is going to be at my door.
At 19, I wasn't thinking of anything. Like, you don't even, I had no awareness, but these kids are.
But he's on forums. He's
him.
talking to.
Yeah. See, he's using the internet like that to learn. To
he is,
gain.
but it pisses me off sometimes too because
you don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Or I'm like, well, he'll be like my friend, and I'm like, your friend. You have no idea if it's a man or a woman. I mean, you can hear by voice, I guess.
Yeah,
but I'm just like, it's amazing, man. It's amazing.
It's a different world. So it's already happening. People have their avatars on the metaverse. So.
Now, do you think right now
it'll be whatever you want?
The metaverse is all Facebook, right?
No, Facebook is one. There's a lot of different metaverses.
Okay.
Look up Rob. Look up Superworld real quick.
Superworld.
Mm-hmm. That's one of them.
Now, Oculus is the main glasses right now.
Yeah. So what they say is Zuckerberg bought the hardware, so he has an advantage because you have to go through his hardware.
World, yes.
Is there a marketplace? Yeah. Let's see.
This is the
that's a
virtual.
Yeah.
Oh, is this like Earth?
Well, no, but this is so Snoop Dogg's like really big now.
Hit enter Superworld. And it'll show you how you could buy different. So we had the creator come to one of my shows. This was in Miami for the Reblock. But you could literally buy, and then he was explaining how
it's similar, Tommy.
Everything has lenses. So like I said, like he was explaining like you might want the Yankee game, but you want to do it this way. The other guy might. So it's literally like you watch Marvel. It's like the metaverse, like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
It's literally like that.
It's unbelievable.
It's not figuratively. It's literally they're creating separate worlds you could jump into.
Snoop Dogg's like really big with it right now. Snoop has like.
Look at that. That's people buying real estate all over the world.
I saw it. There's another one called Earth.co. You ready for this, Chris? You're gonna die, right? So who the hell was it? Somebody came in Earth.co. He's like, oh, you can buy all this land in China. Now remember, I don't know this NFT stuff, and I'm thinking, wow, you can just go online and I could buy a little. I thought maybe I'll buy a little piece of land in wherever, hold on to it for a while. He's thinking the same thing. We go look into it a little bit more. Here, it's all virtual shit. And for 30 minutes in the podcast.
He was talking about like his real land.
Well, he was talking about it. He wasn't explaining.
Right.
He thought like I understood what he was talking about.
That's the information gap.
Right. But I was looking at it like, oh, shit. And I was like, oh, so I could buy like a place right there in Philly. He's like, oh, yeah, you could buy it. Look, everybody else is buying it. And then I realized, with Chris for 30 minutes, I'm sitting here on the podcast.
Talking like
acting like I'm like, like I'm going to buy the fucking thing.
Do you see where it says NFT view?
Yep.
That's where, so the hybrid, the way the on-ramp is, you'll be creating cool things. So then if I want to look inside here, you'll have an NFT view, which will have different, like Rogan over here on this kettlebell might get animated. So that's what they're saying. Those are the layers. You see, like.
So now what's that?
I don't even know. It's art, I'm sure. But the whole point of that is to draw you.
What the fuck is
the whole point. I know. You picked a good one.
I guess that.
Oh, there's a Bored Ape. So the whole point of that is to draw you in to something.
So that's why they got the girl.
So right now, to you and I, it seems wacky, but they're gonna find something that hits our bell, and that's what we get in.
Actually,
that's how it all works.
I think I'm just. I didn't know. I didn't catch it, but I do think that this is going to be some serious shit.
It's I didn't believe it, but I little bit by little bit listening and watching, like,
it's
if
happen.
Snoop Dogg's taking a lot of his money, I don't care if he's high as a fucking kite, and he's doing this shit, and he's having virtual concerts where how many tickets can he sell to a virtual concert?
With no capital.
Infinite. And now he owns this plot
what's your cost? It's like.
And then if I can be a guy, because someone talked about this, if I could be the guy who owns the place right next to his virtual spot, I might be able to get customers and sell through that virtual.
Well, and think about this: the metaverse. There's different metaverses that are being built, most of them on the blockchain. So then if you were looking to invest, I would invest in the technology that allows them to connect. So then there's plumbing. I call it plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're all very collaborative because they want to connect, because then money flows from one metaverse to another.
So I would buy the house in the corner and the house here, but leave one in the middle.
But think about but here's the crazy part. You're buying, let's say, in Super World, and I'm buying in the other world, and you're like, is that connected? Someone has to connect the bridge.
Yeah.
Like a literal technology bridge for us to then go through the portal to the other world. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen, yeah.
I mean, you could see it now,
How about check out Florida, Rob? Anything down here by us? That's incredible.
It really is. Now, how do you think this will play into podcast? I guess you just put virtual glasses on.
Well,
right?
like I said,
and you're there in the room with
like
Rogan, or you're there right.
You're gonna have your own
like
room.
You said,
We'll have your podcast, and you'll buy a area.
When you think about that, sometimes you got to like hear it twice to let it sink in, because it's real. What do you see in Florida?
Oh yeah, Florida's hot. Look at it, just in this area. Florida's much hotter. Go check out Tampa real quick. There's a lot here. Florida's we're like the crypto capital of the world.
Yeah, when I moved down here about 9 years ago, and everybody was crypto or Bitcoin,
Anything
Bitcoin,
in Tampa?
Bitcoin.
Go north.
A little bit.
Not much. 9. Yeah, you see, so by you it's hot.
Right there, Tampa. You got
downtown, right by my office. Yeah. There, that would make sense. Yeah, so we had the founder of this, and he was explaining to us how there's different lenses, and basically it's whatever you want it to be.
And see, all these people come to the Podfest, huh? A lot of people. A lot of different lanes of things. That's so cool. And you put it all together, dude.
Yeah, it all started with just a little meetup. So technically, we should have one in the metaverse,
Yeah, really, you should. You're gonna have to.
We have a piece. Yeah, I would like to host something in the metaverse, and that way you get new audience.
That's so cool.
And it's through podcasting and things like this that you never would have. Someone may not even heard of an NFT or anything, and now you just learn a little bit about it, and you never know the possibilities that are out there.
We have one show that it's called STEM Talks, the science technology. He said, "Hey Chris, can we show off our most recent?" This is a podcaster. He goes, "Can we show one of our science innovations?" Sure. What is it? He goes, "Well, we got this. One of our crew members, he's paralyzed. We put electrodes in his spine. When we hit the button, he stands up."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "That's what you guys do?" He's like, "Yeah, we're a research facility." They go, do you want us to show it? I'm like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
And they showed it. People, I mean, there's grown men with tears in their eyes watching someone that's paralyzed. They put copper electrodes, the electric current. Now, it's very dangerous because they're on the cutting edge. But it was amazing to watch, and that's his that's what they do. He produces a podcast. There's all the cutting edge scientists, and I tried listening to some of it. It's so
like it's one of
it's
those
real stuff,
yeah.
engineering and science that you got to really know your stuff when they're talking.
Last thing, and then we'll go through everything because I think you'll find it interesting. You know, they took a bunch of platelets from a baby rat, and they put those blood platelets in an older rat that was about to die, and it brought it back right to the age of the younger rat. It really did.
Yeah, you're talking about the reverse aging.
Yeah.
How far do you think we're off on that? Everybody having access to that kind of stuff?
Like past animals?
Yeah, for humans.
I don't think they're there yet.
But you think it'll take 5-10 years?
5 years.
5 years?
5 years, yeah. Because if they're able to do it on rats and mice, which basically have our DNA, believe it or not, you know, I mean, they're a little. I think there's 1 or 2 things that are different. I think 5 years.
That'd be awesome.
Now 5 years, it's there, available. Who the fuck knows? Because
that's the weird part, right? Yeah.
And then
because Neuralink, I thought would be out by now.
Oh no, they're gonna hold him back on that forever. They're gonna push that back as long as they can. Because remember, he's got to go through the fucking FDA.
And they control everything.
Right. Yeah. And then even with everything else, you still got to.
That makes sense because he did that demo with the pigs, and you know, I watch all that stuff.
Yeah, he did.
It was ready to rock. Yeah.
He showed it all works. That autism.
Oh really?
Yeah, paraplegic. All kind Parkinson's.
Yeah, I know Parkinson's, Huntington's disease,
and they're literally making him wait the 10, 20 fucking years to do it when.
You can save all these people's lives.
Yeah. Which he could do right now.
It's sad.
He proved it. And the only one that they're going to let him do in 2024 so far is paraplegic because that's the only thing that they can't really make any money.
Medicine,
I guess, you know, what are you going to do? How fucked up is that, huh?
Yeah, it's not...
But as you said, as the technology goes on and we're seeing things change right now, things are going to come along.
I just hope the next generation...
If we don't get nuked.
Stands up for... Yeah, that's the other thing. That's true.
I think that's coming.
I have a couple friends that like we're back into the warring society days, and I go, "You think so?" They're like, "Yeah."
Yeah, no, I don't think it'll be our generation, but I think in the next generation.
You think so?
Yeah, I think we'll get. I think somebody will.
But there's a lot of things going on now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's jockeying for position again.
Everybody's jockeying for position, and before like those supersonic missiles, nukes. You would have time to catch them. Right now, they could go from China to Florida. If you do the math, I thought it was 15 minutes. It's actually 7 minutes and 36 seconds.
Why is that? Goes up over. It just goes
it's the sound of speed. It's going at the sound of speed.
That's crazy. I've heard. I didn't realize it was that fast.
I didn't either. I just.
So you can't even intercept it at that point.
No, because you would only have 7 minutes. You would have to have then a combative. You'd have to be able to catch
almost. Up in the sky to deploy.
Yeah, going at the speed of fucking sound. And
it's that quick?
That quick.
And the Chinese have it?
They have it now.
Do we?
Yeah, we have it. We have it too. But so what? Okay, they shoot one off, we shoot one off?
Yeah, by the time.
That's the end.
Yeah.
I mean, goodbye. There's nothing left after that because then North Korea says, fuck it, we might as well shoot one off too. Boom, boom, boom. And you got...
then Russia involved.
Well, you got the whole line of them lining up together. You got Syria, Russia, China, Siberia. It looks to me like they're all lining up to be one super fucking power. That's what it looks like to me when I'm...
When I went to Greece, all the ports were Chinese.
Yeah.
They've done that One Belt initiative all over the world.
It's fucking crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I said to my relatives, like, what is that? They go, oh, Chinese... The port of Piraeus is like historic. That's where all the great naval battles...
Yeah.
It's literally all Chinese. Like, wow.
And think how patient the Chinese are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, very patient. Like,
very patient.
Hey, we'll help you guys. We'll rebuild your port. We'll give you some money.
Here, you want us to build the iPhone? Sure, we're just going to put a thing in there so we can track everything you fucking do. And
is that what they're doing?
Yeah, because you got to remember, the iPhone's assembled in the US.
No, I know, right.
But you think in China, they're not throwing something in there where they can download every piece of data that we do? And that goes for... There's no phone here that anybody really uses that isn't made in China.
It doesn't go through there, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So when I look at the map, that's how I think over time it's going to line up. And then, because I think, and then they'll all come together, be a superpower. That's if we don't get hit by a nuke prior to that in time. But Anyway, back to podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway,
back to lighter fare.
pull up.
No, I mean, we all
that
think
one.
about the different eventualities. I mean, you can't say there's
You have
not
to,
one
kind
that's
of, right? Yeah. So we got your podcast. It's May 26th to the 29th. What's the best day to go? Every day.
Honestly, yeah, no, if someone wants to come out Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday, those two, just come to 2 days. Anyone's listening and watching this, that's our strategic alliance where literally influencers all over the world get together. We connect people. There's a lot of joint ventures that get made.
How do you get?
So I had an actuary figure out that equation to do it. So
Did you
How
really?
do you get tickets? You just click on the link here.
yeah, just go. I want my ticket, and it's up on Eventbrite. So even if you don't go to the site, go on Eventbrite. Podfest Expo. We own the trademark, so anything Podfest is
Good move.
us. And just scroll. You'll see the different ticket prices. That's the highest industry inner circle, and then
Scroll down, Rob.
it goes down. Yeah.
Yeah.
We even have college passes for college kids, $99. So
Yeah, so for $99 you can get in if you just want to see around, and then you got all the way up. You know,
yeah, all the way up. And honestly, if you're looking to take this seriously,
You go all the way up.
well, any of those tickets. What I'm saying is, we're not like hey, I'm just gonna go for $20, see what's going on. No, these people are taking notes. You're learning from other content creators. They're giving you the roadmap. So it's not like, and we're even talking about Web3 creators. We even have one session teaching how do you layer Bitcoin to get, like, all these different things that we're talking about. We have sessions on them.
That's so cool.
How does it all work? Do you want to tokenize, or you want Patreon? If you don't want Patreon, how are you going to get? There's a lot of tools that you could get, subscribers direct that people don't even know exist, like supporting cast.
Awesome.
There's a lot of great things, and they could even tell you, yeah, if you use our tool, we'll convert 1%. If you do this, we'll convert 3% of your audience, and then you can figure out that money over a year. You know how much that is. So all these people are there teaching.
That's awesome.
So if you're watching this and you want to be a podcast, get your ass here. You can
Yeah,
learn a
come
lot.
on. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. It's a great thing to do. Anything, Rob?
No, I'm just. This is great, man. Just hearing about, talking about.
Yeah, Chris, you're
technologies.
great. Unbelievable,
talking about how
unbelievable
things are
amount of
moving, talking
knowledge.
about-
Really impressed.
One question I had, just real quick, going through podcasts. Someone who, Tommy's done a great job with this, right?
Thanks.
In time, investment, consistency, personality. There's a lot that goes into it too. Someone that's maybe listening to this or watching this and they're like, I'm interested. I think I have an interesting knack or something. And what would be your message to them? Meaning, start to do it. Get out of your comfort zone. Get in front of a camera. Audio, consistent. How long do I do it for? Some people always wonder those questions.
So I'll go down the list. I do all day long. So the first thing is, most people think they don't have anything of value to give. And what they don't realize in any industry, there's a term my buddy used to say, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So if you have some value, you try and be a guest on a podcast that specifically caters to your niche or your audience. Podmatch is probably one of the best guesting tools. Podmatch.com. You could register to be a guest. So before you could even start a podcast, go be a guest and see what it's like. But do your homework and prepare. If you know you're going on a guest, write down some stories you might share. Figure out how you could be interesting. A lot of people don't realize, but those late night shows, there's a producer doing a pre-interview. I mean, they suck now, but back in the day,
they used to be awesome.
the producer, and their stories, that's all manufactured to be entertaining. So be a guest. If you want to do a podcast, here's what I'll tell you. Do it consistently. If you can only do it once a month, do it only once a month. You do it twice a month, do it twice a month. You do it once a week, do it once a week. Try and do it consistently, and try and find your audience and understand that you have to have keywords. But honestly, I would just say have fun with it in the beginning. And if you enjoy it, keep doing it. It doesn't have to be a full-time business. It could be a hobby that you really enjoy. You're doing with your friends, movie review or something. Some biggest podcasts start out that way. For anyone that wants to be a guest, so here's the thing that people miss out. You might not want to do a podcast, but you want to be featured on a podcast. You do it one of two ways. You show up to these conferences where you meet podcasters, make friends, or you go on Podmatch or you hire a booking service. It's the new media tours through podcasts.
Great answer.
Yeah.
I have a question too. How long do you think truth sticks around for?
Well, right now it's trending because Twitter's in the news.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I would say. If I was in Trump's shoes, and this is just me.
Well, remember, he's got the other guy being the face just in case it fails.
Yeah, Devin Nunes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I was him, because I watch all the media things, and I'm sure this happened, when Getter launched, they probably came to Trump and said, hey, we'll give you a piece, or why don't you invest from your, because he created that SPAC that has $2.5 billion.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would have taken 30-40% of Getter, combined the effort so you have a guaranteed hit. The problem with social media is that's like the toughest business in the world. So that being said, he might be able to carve out a niche, but it's going to be tough, man. Because now Getter took that audience.
Right.
So now you
should have combined them.
Yeah, if you combine them, now you might have something. But, Trump is it's all mine, kind of guy. So that's his personality. So his ego is tied to that.
I think he goes back on Twitter. I think he will.
I think it's too irresistible if you have 100 million people. And if you think about it, Twitter might be his number one lead gen into truth, and maybe truth becomes a niche product.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. All these things do have a place. To me, if you want a sure thing, I would have bought into Getter, joined forces.
That's what I would have done.
Just something that's already a surefire hit.
Right.
And then maybe later, but by then, if the
Because-
thing's worth 100 billion, you own 40% of it.
Right. And then you had Getter, which already had the biggest
It's got
podcast
millions
guy
of
back
people.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a good backing from Rogan.
Yep.
And then you take Trump, who got
Yeah,
kicked
now
off.
you got
so if
another
you
10,
like
20
him,
million people.
Yeah, bang. You put it together. Now, Twitter's going to be bigger. It's definitely because if you don't
already
like
got
Trump, you're not
100.
going to go over there.
That's right.
So like you said, it could be a subsidiary place to go. You know what I mean? And then Trump and
And I haven't looked at Truth, to
because
be honest,
me
to see
neither.
how
I just looked
how
at it a little
robust it is. I just know they're saying it's ranking in the store, but
Well, it just came out.
it's like a book.
Yeah.
How many people tell you their book is the bestseller?
Yeah.
Yeah, for that second of that day.
Right. Until the next book comes out.
Yeah, on some niche thing none of us ever heard
Yeah,
of.
like
That person was number one,
yeah.
and they screenshot it.
Is like www.acgnews.com and then number one book, right?
I'm listening to audio book on the way here about P.T. Barnum, because I like listening about promotions. And the guy that wrote the book, he goes, when I released my book, when I used it, I unseated Harry Potter. Let's not get stupid. You know what I mean? Like,
Unseated Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Get the fuck
it was
out.
probably like the 10th year Harry Potter was out.
Yeah.
And this guy for a quick second. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I get he likes saying it, but we all think the same thing. Like, you didn't unseat Harry Potter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all know what Harry Potter is. We've never heard of your book.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy, wake up. Right?
Yeah, it was one of his other books, but whatever. And the guy's a great writer. The books are great, but what I mean, like, people know the shenanigans. That's the thing about what you're doing. You can't hide the truth. The numbers are there. Everybody knows how to read them. We know how to read. Hopefully, we could see the dislikes too.
Yeah, I don't know why they took that away. Well, I do know why they took it away. I wish they would have kept it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it because it
doesn't
allowed
matter.
us to see
It's
kind of
more-
what we all thought about everything.
More interaction.
Yeah,
I don't like the comment part of it, but I would have liked to see the up and
yeah.
downs.
yeah, the up
You
and
know.
downs. You want to see how you're ranking.
But hey, you might hurt somebody's feelings. Can't do that.
It is what it is.
Well, you got to come back, man, because
Yeah,
I
thanks for
want to
having me.
talk
This
about
is
a lot of
awesome.
other stuff. Not just the
Yeah,
podcast.
well, we'll put up a hit list of stuff. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll definitely see you at the Podfest, and I hope a lot of other people do too, man. You got a great thing going on, and congratulations. You're the first guy I know that's in the Guinness World Records, and I actually used to get that book every year.
That was one of my favorite
I used to
books.
trade cards or go to card shows when I was
did
a
you?
kid. Yeah, it was something to do. I was trying to get, the
Baseball
rookie-
cards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd save up and, try to get the card and shit. So I would always get the Guinness Book of World Records to see what cards were
Oh,
what.
interesting.
Because they used to have it because remember
A
they
whole
used to,
section of baseball.
yeah, like what they were worth. But then I would also look at records. And now I met somebody who's in the Guinness Book of World Records. You're the man.
Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming down. I really appreciate it. You're awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.